Chapter 879. The meeting hall was as spacious as a palace hall. 12 stone pillars that were hugged by giant dragons supported the weight of the entire hall. Outside, lazy afternoon sunlight seeped through the gaps between the stone pillars and fell onto the ground, reflecting colorful rays of light on the sparkling and translucent stone slabs. Outside, there were rows of vigilant guards. Today, there were at least 5,000 people stationed outside the meeting hall, which could be said to be unprecedented. However, Bailey Qin didn't seem to care about the mere 5,000 mortals. Bailey Qin took the teacup from the waiter's hand and sat at the round table facing Xi'an. He crossed his legs and said, "After the battle of the Divine Realm, the spirit mountains collided and the planes fused, causing the two planes that were originally unrelated to each other to fuse. Since ancient times, there has been a saying that two tigers cannot live on the same mountain. Therefore, only one of the Shattered Cauldron Realm and the Celestial Pole Continent can be called king." As he spoke, he drank a mouthful of tea and continued. "This time, my martial Saint Emperor has dispatched me, Bailey Qin, to lead 300,000 troops of the Empire to launch an expedition to the Shattered Cauldron world, and it's for the sake of seizing more land for the Darkstone Empire to replenish the strength of the Empire. I think my actions ought to be correct, right? What do you think, Lord Qin?" Xi'an nodded. "Yes, Lord Bailey Qin is working for the Empire." Then, Bailey Qin's gaze became fierce, and the aura around him slowly rose. He stared at Xi'an and said, "Since Lord Xi'an is a battle angel sent by ruler Claude to assist the Celestial Pole Continent in conquering the other planes, why do you repeatedly oppose the Blackstone Empire? You saved our enemy Ko Dingxi on the dragon-shaped island, and repeatedly caused trouble in Dongtian Commandery and Linghan City. This time, you actually entered the dragon-slaying pass and openly opposed the Blackstone Empire. Why? Could it be that Lord Xi'an is openly disobeying the will of the ruler?" "I'm not." Xi'an's expression was indescribably calm. He said, "I think it's fine to conquer a world, but wantonly slaughtering people violates the principles of mercy and mercy in the Western Divine Realm. I believe the Marshal can't deny that your army has slaughtered people in Dongtian Commandery and Linghan City, right?" "That's right." Bailey Qin spread out his hands and smiled. "Massacring an entire city is one of the methods used to boost the morale of the army. This is a tradition of the Blackstone Empire that has lasted for tens of thousands of years. I, Bailey Qin, do not have the ability to change it for now. I hope that Lord Xi'an can understand." Xi'an smiled. "Therefore, there's no harm in letting me rule over these cities. At the very least, I won't harm the innocent, and I'll also gain more faith. Faith is the source of power for the Divine Realm and the Spirited Mountain. If the people hate the Western Divine Realm, then what can we gain by taking over the Shattered Cauldron Realm?" "What do you mean?" Bailey Qin raised his sword-like eyebrows. "In other words, Lord Xi'an wants to personally intervene in the struggle for supremacy of the continent, and wants me, Bailey Qin, to withdraw myself?" Xi'an said indifferently, "The Lord Ruler asked me to descend to the lower realm to help the Celestial Pole Continent seize the Shattered Cauldron Realm, but he didn't specify that I should help the Blackstone Empire seize the Shattered Cauldron Realm. If you, Marshal Bailey Qin, can be the master of the Shattered Cauldron Realm, Xi'an can do the same." "Good. Good," Bailey Qin clenched his teeth and said, "Looks like there's nothing to talk about." Fuyu said angrily, "Marshal, what's there to talk about with her? This little girl is sincerely opposing us just to protect the Shattered Cauldron Realm's army. Humph, why don't we take action now and destroy her dragon-slaying pass?" Han Shu held the dragon's sword in his hand, and his gaze was ice-cold. He was already accumulating power and waiting to strike. "Do you want to take action?" Xi'an smiled. "Good. Good. If Marshal Bailey Qin has decided to take action, then go ahead. I'll also leave a message for you. If I can help the Blackstone Empire, then I can also help the Tianji Empire. I believe that the Tianji Empire's Emperor Baiming Yuan wouldn't mind eliminating the Blackstone Empire's army in the Shattered Cauldron Realm's territory, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Lord Xin wants to help the Tianji Empire? Bailey Qin's expression turned cold. Why not? Xi's expression was indifferent as he said, perhaps, helping the Celestial Empire is also possible. I have the decree of the Western Divine Realm. I believe that the armies of the Celestial Empire and the Tianji Empire will more or less listen to me. It shouldn't be difficult for the 2 great empires to join hands and destroy your Blackstone Empire first, right? Moreover, they will be happy to do it. Ha 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 ha, Bailey Qin laughed for a long time. No wonder. Blazing Angel Xiyan wants to take you as her sister. You are indeed courageous and knowledgeable. Alright then, since Lord Xin likes Dragon Slaying Pass so much, then Dragon Slaying Pass will belong to you. Generals, follow me back to camp. Yes, Marshal. Everyone stood up simultaneously. Xin said, forgive me for not sending you off. However, Bailey Qin had only taken a few steps when he suddenly stopped and laughed. The cloak behind him trembled slightly. Without turning his head, he said as if he was talking to himself, I have long heard that Lord Xin is Lord Xian's sister and is also a brilliant disciple. Furthermore, you are the champion of this god's chosen trial and have awakened the golden wings. Therefore, I, Bailey Qin, a god from the lower realm, would like to experience for myself and see how powerful Lord Xin is. I wonder if Lord Xin can give me some pointers. Xin smiled faintly. He knew that Bailey Qin would not give up so easily. Even if Bailey Qin could not kill him, he would at least want to defeat him to dampen the spirit of the Xin army. Do you want to spar? Xin said faintly, where? Bailey Qin laughed heartily and said, since you and I are the highest commanders of the 2 armies, sparring cannot be treated as child's play. How about, in 2 hours, prepare yourselves and we will spar in front of the Dragon Slaying Pass. How about it? Terrelin frowned and said, Marshal Bailey, you are a god emperor of the 87th level Grotto Heaven. Do you want to bully Xin, a god king of the 50th level Grotto Heaven? It is only a spar. That is the end. Bailey Qin said faintly, I only want to know how powerful Lord Xin's techniques are. Why, is this not enough? If Lord Xin doesn't even have the courage to fight me, then I am afraid, he does not have the qualifications to occupy the Dragon Slaying Pass and the countless cities within it. I agree. In 2 hours, we will spar in front of the pass. Thank you, Lord. Bailey Qin strode out of the meeting hall and mounted his horse. He said loudly, let's go back to camp. Order the 3 armies to go to the pass and cheer for me. He wanted to throw Xin's face in front of the 2 armies. However, Xin had no other choice but to accept the challenge. Outside the pass, the sound of drums thundered. In a short 2 hours, Bailey Qin had gathered at least 50,000 powerful troops outside. They were beating the drums and cheering. The 3 armies were upright and upright. The gate of the Dragon Slaying Pass slowly opened. Su Jiantao rode on his warhorse and personally led the cavalry to cheer for them. The cavalry dispersed and spread out below the pass. The purple-ine flower war flag fluttered in the wind. It was very beautiful. Xin floated forward with the star's sword in her hand. Terrelin, Lake, Zhou Shimin, and the others had nervous expressions. In fact, they were the most conflicted and anxious. They had obviously come down to help the Celestial Pole Continent, but now they were fighting with the God Realm experts of the Celestial Pole Continent. No one knew what Xin was thinking. Maybe Xin was even more conflicted than them. Terrelin clenched her fists. Her stance was the most resolute among the 6 of them. She supported Xin no matter what she did. Lake was Xin's pursuer. Moreover, he was Terrelin's playmate since childhood. Therefore, he might as well support Xin along with Terrelin. As for Zhou Shimin, he and Lake were good friends. Therefore, this was a chain reaction. The 6 of them decided to follow Xian without caring about the consequences. At least, before they were banished from the Star Cave, Claude's order was for them to listen to Xian's orders. Therefore, following orders was never wrong. They wouldn't have to worry about the ruler's punishment if they took advantage of this loophole. The 6 battle angels were less than 100 steps away from Xian. This way, they could save her at any time. Although Xian was strong, her opponent was even stronger. He was a god emperor at the 87th level of the Grotto Heaven. The disparity was too great. Bailey Qin floated over and unsheathed the sword at his waist. The blade was suffused with a frightening light. It was another treasure that was at least a saint artifact. At the very least, Xian wouldn't have an advantage in terms of weapons. Buzz! Bailey Qin gently swung his long sword, and instantly, streams of light flew around the blade and gathered into a thick divine power. Bailey Qin's main law was earth type, and the thick feeling he exuded far surpassed other cultivators of the same level. He raised his eyes and said, "Lord Xian, please enlighten me." Xian stepped out of the star's sword and pointed it at Bailey Qin. She nodded and said, "Come." Pfft! Lightning flashed. Bailey Qin actually shattered the void. His sword slashed down from the sky. It was as fast as lightning. An ordinary person probably wouldn't be able to block it. However, Xian's perception was far better than an ordinary person's. The star's sword shone brightly in front of his chest. He pressed the back of the sword with his left hand. He had to block this attack. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Bang! The earthen light and the light-type godly power clashed. Instantly, it was obvious who had the upper hand. Xian and his sword lost their balance and fell backward. The air around them swirled rapidly. The power from the blade was too strong. Xian felt that he wasn't blocking a sword, but a huge mountain. "Eat my second sword." Bailey Qin's aura was ferocious. Once he gained the upper hand, he stabbed out a second time. The power in his blade was so strong that the ground where he flew past began to crumble. Cracks appeared everywhere he flew past. It was terrifying. Xian. Terralyn couldn't help but clench her fists. However, she knew that this wasn't the time to attack. As expected, Xian, who was spinning in the air, let out a low shout. A small ball of light appeared around her sword. It was the law spirit pearl of the light element. Instantly, her strength was doubled. Her sword was unrestrained. With a dang sound, she shook off Bailey Qin's second sword attack. This time, it was a draw. Xian took a few steps back, and Bailey Qin was stunned for a second. What a strong pressure of godhood! Bailey Qin's heart skipped a beat. He couldn't help but want to kill her. This girl was only at the 50th level of the heavenly abode, yet she could block an attack with 60% of his strength. How shocking was that? He didn't say anything. Instead, he swung his sword upwards. Suddenly, the ground cracked. Stone spikes shot out from the ground towards Xian. Bailey Qin was already planning to use the Law Spirit Pearl to suppress his strong opponent. Chapter 880. Bang, 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 numerous sharp stone awls broke out of the ground and went straight for Xian. They were like a long dragon that suddenly emerged from the ground. The power was so strong that ordinary people could not withstand it. Xian spread her wings and suddenly shouted in a low voice. Suddenly, dazzling dragon crystals fell from the sky and collided with the stone awls. Pure energy substances splashed and turned into shock waves. The broken stone fragments mixed with the energy light curtain, and dust rose into the sky. It was a terrifying scene. It's the celestial dragon crystal. Su Jiantao's hand, which was holding the hilt of his sword, trembled slightly. He said, "She must be Princess Qin Yin. She must be." Terralyn smiled and said, even if she is not now. She has no memory of Qin Yin at all. How can she be the Qin Yin? Listen to your orders. Let Qin go. Don't mention Qin Yin before she remembers everything. Su Jiantao clenched his teeth and remained silent. Amidst the dust, a wave of air suddenly surged. It was like a sail being blown by a hurricane, reflecting a huge fist. The shadow of the fist was completed in one move. It was Bailey Qin's next attack. This time, he was using 70% of his strength. Bang! The 3 celestial dragon crystals shattered at the same time amidst the sound of metal colliding with stone. Yin could not help but let out a whimper as a few golden feathers flew out from her golden wings. In the blink of an eye, they transformed into golden stars in the sky. Her power had been damaged. Use the eyes of blazing light. Bailey Qin's roar could be heard from the dust. With a "so," his entire body suddenly shot out like lightning. His fist carried the force of a mountain as it landed heavily on the divine wall in front of Yin. Bang! Yin was sent flying, and the holy wall shone brightly. Facing a god who was stronger than her, the holy wall was no longer invincible. The golden-red flames around her flew and rotated. She smiled and slowly opened her eyes. Suddenly, there was a buzzing sound, and the atmosphere seemed to change instantly. Bailey Qin forced himself to open his eyes and looked at the eyes of blazing light. He felt like he was sitting on pins and needles. Every inch of his skin felt like it was in a hell of fire. It was very uncomfortable. Stone armor. With a roar, streams of earth divine power turned into a golden armor and surrounded Bailey Qin. His eyes were naturally hidden behind the armor, and they shone with a cold light. A saber made of pure divine power appeared in his hand. He smiled faintly and said, "You are indeed a level 7 battle angel. You are much more powerful than the other battle angels. Master Yin, you have to be careful from now on. I will do my best, and you must do your best too. Otherwise, I might accidentally kill you." Yin's eyes turned cold. She couldn't help but raise her head proudly. Her long neck glowed like snow under the sunlight. Suddenly, she shouted in a low voice and attacked Bailey Qin with the star's sword instead of defending. She slashed at Bailey Qin dozens of times consecutively. She was too fast. Almost 40 slashes were completed in 5 seconds. Su Jiantao and the rest couldn't even see Yin's movements. They could only see the golden flames and the domain aura from the eyes of blazing dawn. Apart from that, there were also pieces of broken golden armor. Needless to say, those were the pieces of the stone armor that Bailey Qin had created. Bang! The airflow was turbulent. Bailey Qin was forced to retreat for almost 300 meters under Yin's heavy slash. His body left a long grayish-yellow trail in the air. If he didn't rely on the airflow, he would have retreated for another few hundred meters. The stone armor on the surface of Bailey Qin's body shattered inch by inch. Even the godly wall started to crack. Bailey Qin's expression was calm. He gritted his teeth and laughed loudly, "Good attack." Good attack. On the other hand, Yin's exquisite white battle angel cloak fluttered in the wind. She looked calm, but if one looked closely, the godly wall around her body had already been shattered. Moreover, there was a barely visible blood mark on the side of her neck. That was the mark left by Bailey Qin's saber. In reality, the one who was at a disadvantage was Yin. Bailey Qin already had the chance to kill her, but he didn't grasp it well. Should I use it or not? Yin frowned slightly and asked herself repeatedly. When Yen was training in secret, she had told him not to use it when it was not necessary, but now that Bailey Qin had shown his killing intent, if he did not use it, he was afraid that he would never have the chance to use it again. No, I have to use it. I have to protect the dragon-slaying pass at all costs. Thinking up to this point, Xian's eyes of blazing light became even more powerful. It even forced the soldiers 500 meters behind Bailey Qin to continue to retreat. They couldn't resist the burning aura of the eyes of blazing light at all. Bailey Qin was already drenched in sweat. Even though he had the upper hand, he wasn't much better off. Holding the star's sword with both hands, Xian gritted her teeth. Waves of energy surged in her body. With a wang 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 sound, the light from the long sword shot out dozens of meters. Then, the light from the sword began to split up. In the blink of an eye, it was as if she was holding dozens of stars' swords in her hands. This was the ultimate technique that Xian taught her when she was staying at her residence. Oh my God, on the ground, Terrelyn's mouth was wide open. She was dumbfounded. That's... Lake was also shocked. Zhou Shimin gritted her teeth. What a strong power. What is the origin of this move from Xian? Terrelyn's voice trembled slightly. It's Blazing Angel Xian's ultimate technique, the first form of Xian's 7 slashes, split. Oh my God, Lady Xian actually passed her ultimate technique to Xian. Su Jiantao and Xiang Yu were stunned. They didn't even know who Xian the Blazing Angel was. However, seeing how powerful experts like Terrelyn and Lake were so shocked, it was obvious that Xian was quite powerful. In the air, Bailey Qin was in an even more difficult situation. He had never seen Xian and didn't know what Xian's 7 slashes was. However, Xian's sword was so strong that he even felt a trace of fear. The flames turned into air waves and spread out. Xian's speed was unparalleled. He waved his sword and casually used the first form of Xian's 7 slashes. Oracle Rock Wall. Bailey Qin hurriedly used his strongest defensive technique. A 3-meter thick rock wall appeared in front of him. It was extremely thick, but it seemed like it wasn't enough to withstand the power of split. However, he could only try it as a last resort. Peng peng peng, multiple layers of light divine power landed on the earth divine power. Instantly, the rock wall turned into a sieve, and Bailey Qin managed to escape. He glided away from his original position. Behind him, streaks of sword chi slashed through the air. If they landed on him, he would probably be in deep trouble. Pa. A thunderbolt spread out behind him. It was the void shattering. Bailey Qin was stunned. Xian was here, but he couldn't escape. In the eyes of Blazing Light's domain, he couldn't use the power of the void shattering. Rock Dragon Slash. Since he couldn't escape, he might as well go all out. Bailey Qin's longsword swept across with such a powerful aura that Xian, who had just successfully broken through the void, did not even have time to think. She raised her long sword and a dazzling light appeared on the blade. Xian's 7 slashes, the second form, bang. As the two powerful forces collided, neither side gained the upper hand. Bailey Qin's divine power was too strong, so much so that Xian could not gain the upper hand even if she tried her best. Golden blood flowed down the hilt of the sword. Xian's hand almost couldn't hold the power anymore. Xian's 7 slashes was created by Xian based on her own strength. However, Xian's strength was far from Xian's. Using the second strike was already his limit. Bailey Qin saw this and said plainly, "Why do you have to force yourself? Lord Xian?" "No." Xian panted heavily. Her eyes were filled with wildness. She smiled and said, "Didn't you say you wanted to spar? I haven't let General Bailey see my strongest attack yet." As she spoke, she raised her sword. Blood dripped down from the corner of her mouth. The star's sword started to tremble. The golden light divine power turned into rays of blood-red light that surrounded the sword. It was the third form of Xian's 7 slashes, the first form, destruction. A powerful and awe-inspiring aura rose. The demon and god taboo, destruction was the most powerful move among the first 3 forms. At the same time, it was also the most difficult to master. The scorching light divine power rippled in the air, causing Bailey Qin to be on his back. Enough. Suddenly, Bailey Qin raised his palm and said plainly, I, Bailey Qin, have already experienced Battle Angel Xian's ultimate technique. Let's end it here. You and I are both gods of the Western Divine Realm. There's no need to fight to the death here. What do you think, Lord Xian? The power of destruction slowly dissipated. Xian smiled lightly, General Bailey Qin is right. Then, please withdraw your troops. She secretly rejoiced. She hadn't completely grasped this destruction move. If Bailey Qin really wanted to fight, her body wouldn't even need Bailey Qin to make a move. Her body would collapse first. If that happened, it would be a nightmare for the dragon-slaying pass. Bailey Qin was too strong. Terralyn, Lake, and the others behind her wouldn't be Bailey Qin's match even if they joined forces. Moreover, Bailey Qin still had Han Shu, Fu Yu, and other God Realm experts to help him. I will obey Lord Xian's orders. The Blackstone Empire's army will immediately depart and return to Ling Han City. Bailey Qin dispersed his stone armor and cupped his fists. I, Bailey Qin, will take my leave. Thank you, Lord Xian, for your guidance. This little girl also thanks the Marshal for his guidance. Xian lowered her head and watched Bailey Qin fly away. In the air, the voice of the Blackstone Empire's Marshal echoed, everyone, retreat, return to Ling Han City. Xian, are you all right? Terralyn flew forward and supported Xian's arm. However, Xian's face was extremely pale. Not long after she landed, she suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and softly fell into Terralyn's embrace. In the end, Bailey Qin was still stronger than her. Even the flaming eyes couldn't change the absolute difference in strength. The conk's horn echoed throughout the Blue Flame Army and Ocean Army. Bailey Qin's face was ashen. Fu Yu raised his warblade and urged his horse forward. He said, Marshal, are we just going to give up like this? No, why should we give up? Bailey Qin's gaze turned cold. Where is Han Shu? This general is here. Immediately ride the giant dragon back to the Empire and meet His Majesty. Apply for 1,000,000 gold and silver, 10,000 demon spirit stones, and His Majesty's Order of Honor. Bring these items to the Thunderblaze sect and ask the sect master of the Thunderblaze sect, Lord Longxi, to come out and help. But Lord Longxi has never concerned himself with the Empire's war affairs. I'm afraid this will be a little difficult. Don't worry, just tell him that there is a battle angel in the Shattered Cauldron realm that even I, Bailey Qin, am not a match for. Yes, this general will do it right away. Chapter 881. On the 23rd of May, a war broke out at the border between the Celestial Empire and the Blackstone Empire. Chen Yu, the second prince of the Celestial Empire, led 5,000 elite soldiers to attack Jinyun Pass. There were only 10,000 soldiers defending Jinyun Pass, but they didn't succeed after a day of hard attack. At night, Chen Yu gave the order to set up Camp 5 Li outside of Golden Field Pass. The soldiers were dispirited by the light of day, and Chen Yu's face was ashen. He sat in the central tent with a worried frown. Whoosh! A gust of wind blew past. Liao Yang had arrived. Greetings, Your Highness. Liao Yang, come and sit. What did Headmaster Han Yuan say? Chen Yu was very anxious. Uncle said that he can't send people to help Your Highness yet. Why? Chen Yu was shocked. It's very simple. Uncle is the leader of the Celestial Extreme sect. Every decision he makes is related to the life and death of the 30,000 disciples of the Celestial Extreme sect. Second prince is just a prince, not even a crown prince. Uncle can't bet everything on second prince. This. Chen Yu gritted his teeth. How can Headmaster Han Yuan not tell right from wrong? Damn it, damn it. Liao Yang laughed. Your Highness, aren't you being too impatient? They launched an attack during the day. On my way here, I saw that the camp was almost overcrowded. We must have suffered a lot today. They mobilized the militia. Chen Yu frowned and said, the defending general of Jianghu Pass was originally a mediocre person, but he actually mobilized nearly 20,000 militia to participate in the battle. Rocks rained down, otherwise we wouldn't have been defeated. How many soldiers did we lose? More than 1,800. So many. Liao Yang was startled and said, I think we should take our time to think about it. Your Second Highness, don't worry. Although Uncle can't send people to help your Highness, but Uncle told me that he will naturally appear when it's time. Moreover, he wants to make your Second Highness make a decision that will change the history of the Heaven Jew Empire. Otherwise, the Heaven Jew sect will not help your Highness with all their strength. The decision to change the course of history? Chen Yu was dumbfounded. Your Highness, don't think too much. Have some tea, ha ha ha. But right when Liao Yang hadn't sat down, the sound of a gong being struck sounded out abruptly from outside, and it was an expanse of clamorous noise as a sharp voice shouted loudly. Bad news. The Darkstone Empire's bandits have attacked the camp. Attacking the camp? Chen Yu shuddered. Their losses today are higher than mine. Where did they get the troops to attack the camp? As he spoke, he pulled out his sword and flew into the sky, piercing through the tent. He stepped on the clouds and looked into the distance. There was an endless stream of torches coming from the direction of Jianghu Pass. The sound of cavalry trampling on the ground could be faintly heard. There were at least 30,000 people coming. Bastard, bastard, Chen Yu looked into the distance and saw the words Chunyu written on the enemy's war flag. He couldn't help but murmur, Chunyu, which general is it? Chunyu He. Liao Yang said indifferently, Chunyu He is the general guarding Black Wind Pass. He is a famous general of the Blackstone Empire. He has 30,000 elites under him. It seems that your Highness lured him here when you attacked the pass during the day. Your Highness' remaining 3,000 soldiers are no match for him. Moreover, Chunyu He is a Saint Martial King with 58 heavens. It's better to avoid him. This is infuriating. Chen Yu's heart was filled with fire. The entire Tianzhu Empire had 1.5 million regular troops, but he could only bring 5,000 troops to attack, and he had even suffered such a humiliating defeat. This was all caused by his father, who wanted to live a peaceful life as the Eastern region's emperor, and his brother, who was addicted to sensual pleasures. The seed of hatred had been deeply planted. Send the order to retreat. Retreat towards the direction of Yulin. Chen Yu shouted. But he knew that there wouldn't be much of this army left. The pursuit continued until the next morning. Thick smoke billowed in the Yulin. Chen Yu was in a daze. He even lost his sword. If it wasn't for Liao Yang's protection, he would have died under Chunyu He's steel blade. Looking back, there were less than 100 people following him. The legendary strongest private army of the imperial capital, the Second Prince's army, had already become history. Chen Yu's heart ached. He gritted his teeth. Even his fists were bleeding. At this moment, the old cowherd singing came from the forest. The singing was very melodious, and it was a poem. Chen Yu couldn't help but listen carefully. Holding a golden spoon in one's mouth without fetters, great ambitions are difficult. An emperor, a dream, thousands of troops return the song. Listening carefully, the song was full of ridicule. Wasn't it talking about him? For a moment, Chen Yu was infuriated. He shouted, "Who dares to mock me like this?" "It's just a cowherd," a guard said. "Take him down." While the guard was hesitating, Chen Yu spurred his horse past. He pulled out the guard's sword and rushed into the forest. He raised his sword and slashed at the old man. He shouted in a low voice, "Who are you? Show yourself." The old man was still herding the cowherd. He didn't even look back. However, Chen Yu's sword was repelled by a strong shield. The divine wall. That faint golden light must be the divine wall. Chen Yu's hand went numb. He instinctively knew who this person was. He didn't care about the rain on the ground. He knelt down and said, "Sect leader Han Yuan, please save me, Chen Yu." The old man slowly turned around. His bamboo hat instantly shattered. He smiled and said, "Second Prince, you are the future emperor. How can you kneel to an old man like me? Quickly get up." Chen Yu slowly got up. "Sect leader, what should I do now? His Highness is about to be killed." Why?" Chen Yu was shocked. "You were defeated at Jianghu Pass. Once you return to Sweet Spring Palace, don't tell me the Emperor won't put the crime of being greedy for grandiose achievements and underestimating the enemy on your head? Your Second Highness, you should know very well that your elder brother Chen Qian has always wanted to get rid of you, and your father has long been blinded by wine and women. He only wants to live a peaceful life and has never thought of attacking. You have always advocated going to war, and your father is very afraid that you will be able to outdo him." Chen Yu's heart was in a mess. Then what should I do? A man walks the world with a clear conscience. Han Yuan smiled and said, "You should know better than me which one is more important, the Emperor's hegemony or two useless relatives. Your Highness, what you lack is nothing more than an encouragement and an opportunity. If you don't act decisively, you'll end up in trouble. How could someone as intelligent as your Highness not understand this? But, they are my brother and father after all, an empire is built with blood. If Second Prince can't even overcome this, then you don't deserve to be the future emperor of the Celestial Empire." This, Chen Yu's eyes flickered. He pondered for half a minute and said, "Father has 3 experts by his side. Huang Tao and Zhou Yan are both sacred martial kings. One is in the 52nd Grotto Heaven stage, the other is in the 49th Grotto Heaven stage. There is also Zhang Lu, a sacred martial venerable with the 28th Grotto Heaven stage. Not only are they God state experts, but they are also dragon riders. With them around, I'm afraid it will be difficult to succeed." Han Yuan smiled, "I will kill a mere sacred martial king for Second Prince. The only thing I need Second Prince to do is to make a decision." "Fine." Chen Yu clenched his fists, and a cold light shot out from his eyes. He said, "When we return to Sweet Spring Palace tonight, I'll see if Father will punish me. If Father does, then you're heartless and I'm unjust. If Father doesn't punish me, then I'll have to think about it at length. Lord Han Yuan, if you help me, the position of Commander-in-Chief of the Celestial Empire will be yours." "I don't care about that." Han Yuan stroked his beard and smiled, "I only hope that after you unify the Celestial Pole Continent, you will only worship my Celestial Extremity sect. That will be enough." "No problem." As night fell, the scattered cavalrymen returned to the Palace of Sweet Spring. Everyone was listless, but if one were to look carefully, they would discover that there was a white-bearded old man among the group of guards. However, his face was hidden in the iron helmet, so it was difficult to discover him without looking carefully. "His Second Highness is back." Amidst the shouts of the attendants, Chen Yu led the 3 guards into the palace hall. As usual, the hall was filled with songs and dances. However, when the dancers saw Chen Yu and the others' miserable appearances of having thrown away their helmets and armor and being bathed in blood, all of them tactfully retreated. Otherwise, they would inevitably be reprimanded by Chen Yu again. "Yo, second brother is back." Chen Hai, who was holding a beauty in his arms, said with a smile, "Second brother, what happened to you?" Could it be that his Second Highness, who is known as the hope of the Celestial Empire's military, was defeated in the attack on Jianghu Pass? He had probably received the news long ago. Chen Yu's face was ashen. He knelt on one knee and said, "Father, I was defeated. The attack on Jianghu Pass was unsuccessful, and the main force of the enemy attacked our camp at night. We suffered a great defeat. Of the 5,000 prefectural soldiers, only less than 100 are left. What? Chen Hai was taken aback. Chen Yu, my son, Imperial Father told you long ago not to underestimate the enemy, but you didn't listen. If it weren't for your arrogance, how could you have suffered such a defeat? You must be tired. Go back to your quarters and rest. Father. Chen Hai's eyes were sharp. Those 5,000 prefectural soldiers are also soldiers of the Celestial Empire. How can we not punish Chen Yu for his defeat because of his carelessness? But he is still my son, Chen Hai said. A country has its laws, and a family has its rules. Father, please reconsider. Very well. Chen Hai waved his hand. Men, send second Prince Chen Yu to Wind Forest Garden to reflect on his mistakes for 3 days. His salary will be cut for half a year, and he will not be allowed to command any troops for the next 3 years. Chen Yu knelt on the ground, his eyes filled with reluctance. Chen Hai's decision would probably cause chaos in the empire. Late at night, a pillar of fire rose into the sky in the bedroom. Both Emperor Chen Hai and Crown Prince Chen Qian of the Celestial Empire had been assassinated. A day later, more than 100 civil and military officials, led by Dongqing Wang and other generals, crowned Chen Yu, the legitimate heir of the empire, to the throne. Thus, the Celestial Empire opened a new chapter of militarism. Chapter 882. On the 28th of May, the second prince of the Celestial Empire, Chen Yu, returned to the imperial capital, Laohan City, to hold his ascension ceremony, but secretly ordered the commanders of the Heaven's End Army and the Earth's End Army to immediately attack the borders of the Blackstone Empire. The flames of war rose everywhere, and the territories of the Celestial Empire were instantly engulfed by the flames of war. The Emperor, Shi Yuan, randomly sent the Gale Regiment to the borders to fight, while Feng Yang arrived at the borders 2 days later, and engaged in a bloody battle with the Heaven's End Army and the Earth's End Army. Corpses littered the ground, and blood flowed like rivers. The war between the Celestial Empire and the Blackstone Empire also shocked the Tianji Empire in the far north. Bei Ming Yuan immediately gave the order to mobilize all the troops within the borders to defend, at the same time waiting for an opportunity to strike. As soon as there was an opportunity, they would launch a lightning-fast strike. The relationship between the three empires became even more complicated and confusing. In the 6th month, the scorching hot summer arrived, and even the imperial soldiers guarding the steel walls were no longer wearing their armor. What was rare was that the Luo River estuary had not been in battle for over a month, and the rare peace allowed everyone to feel a trace of peace. Even behind the steel walls, groups of merchants began to gather. The army required a large amount of resources, and just relying on the transportation from the Ministry of Revenue was far from enough. In truth, the majority of the supplies were purchased from the local merchants, and this was something that Lin Muyu had tacitly agreed to. 20 li south of the Luo River estuary, on a verdant mountain range, rock goats were hopping about, while a scarlet python was entrenched on a huge tree, watching its prey from afar, while wild rabbits were searching for food by the river. Birds were chirping, and everything seemed so peaceful. A handsome young man sat cross-legged on a rock with his eyes closed tightly. He seemed to have fused with everything in the surroundings, and every strand of his aura rose and fell with the wind. His body was suffused with a faint glow like a pearl, but it didn't conflict with everything in the surroundings. It was even to the extent that the pythons, rock goats, and other living beings nearby didn't notice his existence at all. The formless elephant art's power came from all living things, and this was the unique aspect of Lin Muyu's training. It was rare for the Luo River estuary stronghold to be peaceful for a period of time, and this period of time was also a precious time for Lin Muyu to focus on training and seeking a breakthrough. His palms were placed on his legs, and the 2 demon spirit stones in his palms were only remnants, and most of the spiritual energy had been refined. Ever since he started training the formless elephant art, Lin Muyu's speed of absorbing spiritual energy had increased by leaps and bounds. The formless elephant art consumed a large amount of divine energy, and every time he used it, it felt like his body was emptied of energy. This made Lin Muyu refine some low-grade godheads and demon spirit stones more frequently, and his strength had also increased by leaps and bounds. This kind of growth was far beyond Lin Muyu's expectations. Within the peaceful aura, strands of energy spread out, and every breath carried a pulse of energy, a total of 36 pulses. Ever since he stepped into the God King realm, Lin Muyu's cultivation had increased by leaps and bounds, and the speed of his cultivation was far beyond his expectations. In less than a month, he had already broken through to the 6th stage of the Grotto Heaven realm, and the price was 2 broken godheads, and as many as 50 demon venerables and 4th-grade demon spirit stones. He slowly opened his eyes, and the formless elephant art's power pulsed in his body, as if it was connected to everything around him. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile faintly. It seemed like the formless elephant art had also made a breakthrough. Embracing all phenomena of the world, that was the strongest realm of this law. He raised his palm gently, and pointed it straight at the mountain in the distance. He silently chanted, "Everything in the world, listen to my command." Buzz buzz, amidst the faint buzzing sound, the power in his palm suddenly became thick, as if he was holding the weight of a mountain in his hand. Moreover, this was not Lin Muyu's own strength, but borrowed. That's right, the 2nd stage of the formless elephant art strength, borrowing power. Borrowing the power of the mountain, the power that could be unleashed was far beyond what Yi Xiang Dibai could compare with. The power in his palm became thicker and thicker, to the point that Lin Muyu could barely hold it. The elephant tower in his high spun rapidly, and produced elephant wheels one after another. When there were 10 elephant wheels, all the power gathered in his palm. The 2nd stage of the formless elephant art strength, 10 elephants punishing the heavens. Borrowing power, mountain. Lin Muyu's palm slowly sank down, and suddenly, with a boom, the forest within 100 meters in front of her completely caved in, as if it was being crushed by a huge mountain. The towering trees turned into powder, and the river flowed. With a boom, a shockwave spread out to both sides, and in the blink of an eye, the entire forest was razed to the ground. Lin Muyu was silent, but his heart was in turmoil. What a strong formless elephant art, as expected of the absolute art created by God Emperor Fuxi of the sky beyond heaven. In terms of lethality, the 7 luminaries and the formless elephant art were not too far apart, but the 7 luminaries was too overbearing, while the formless elephant art was calm and unruffled. Once it was unleashed, the destructive power was even greater than the 7 luminaries. This was like the characteristics of the 2 god emperors. The 7 luminaries' demon emperor was forthright and distinguished between kindness and hatred, while Fuxi cared about all things and had compassion for the common people. But no matter how much they changed, their understanding of power was actually the same. Unknowingly, Lin Muyu had a new understanding of divine power. This kind of understanding was probably something that most gods would never be able to comprehend in their entire lives. This was the difference between realms. After obtaining the sovereign personality, Lin Muyu's talent and potential had been greatly improved. In the eyes of the common people, he was a genius among geniuses. He was far from the level of the 4 luminaries heroes of Lanyan. However, the common people still remembered him as the 4 luminaries of Lanyan, because they were the orthodox and were personally conferred by Emperor Qin Jin. The common people were too far away from gods, and almost no one had seen a real god. However, the emperor could be known from the prefectures, and other places. The common people had the emperor in their hearts, but they might not necessarily have a god. At the foot of the mountain, a row of fine horses galloped over. It was the elite cavalry of the Longdan army camp led by Wei Chou, Bai Yin, and the others. Your Highness. Looking at the forest that had been razed to the ground, Wei Chou could not help but gasp in amazement. He galloped forward and asked, "Your Highness, are you all right?" "I'm fine." Lin Muyu shook her head and asked, "What's the matter?" "There's one thing." Wei Chou hung the bow back on the side of the warhorse and said, "Our Warhawk scouts found many warships of the Tianji Empire on the East Sea. They seem to be mobilizing their troops. If I'm not wrong, the Baiminghuan has already mobilized their warships to launch an attack from the sea since they couldn't break through our Luo River estuary fortress. After the Blue Wind Sea battle, the Tianji Empire doesn't have many warships left. How many people can they mobilize? I don't know, but they have at least 500 warships left. I think they can mobilize 100,000 people to attack quickly. We must be on guard. Yes, send more Warhawk scouts to investigate. Once their main force really boards the ships, we will also move together and fight them on the shore." "Yes. How's the cavalry training going?" "Not bad." Wei Chou touched his nose. "What do you mean, not bad? How many do you have?" Lin Muyu was speechless. Wei Chou smiled and said, 8,000. "I've scrounged up everything I could and almost broke the doorsteps of the Ministry of Revenue, the Holy Temple, and the Ministry of War. Finally, I got 6,000 warhorses. Including the 2,000 that Your Highness brought back, we have exactly 8,000. This is all we have. Together, we can form a cavalry battalion. There are only 6,000 warhorses in the entire Lingdong province." Lin Muyu frowned and said, "Yes, Your Highness, you may not know this, but Lingdong is the most barren province to begin with. Moreover, we've been at war for many years, and the people are weary and the treasury is empty. These 6,000 warhorses were gathered from all over the place. I even asked for the warhorses used by the Minister of War to pull the carriage. Zheng Yifan also contributed 100 warhorses from his personal guards. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be able to gather 6,000. Lin Muyu was slightly stunned and said, "Lord Fan really handed over the mounts of his personal guard?" "Yes. I really didn't expect that Zheng Yifan would be so indecisive back then. What made him become such a loyal official?" It's actually very simple." Wei Chou touched his nose and said, "But I said that Your Highness can't blame me." "Say it." "Yes." Wei Chou pondered for a moment and said, "When the Radiant King Qin Jin was still alive, the empire only had Zheng Yifan, Chu, and a few other sacred domains. At that time, Zheng Yifan could be said to be second only to the Radiant King. But later on, the four heroes of Lanyan appeared. Your Highness, Prince Xian, Feng Jixing, Princess Shi, and the others' cultivation kept breaking through and surpassed Duke Fan. Now, Duke Fan can't even be ranked in the top 5 in the empire with his strength. It's because his strength isn't up to par. When a person's strength is far from his expectations, he can only restrain himself and accept reality. If Zheng Yifan dies in battle now, he can still leave behind a good name and maintain his ranking in the Lingyun Pavilion. Otherwise..." As he said this, Wei Chou smiled faintly and said, "Everyone is playing a game and gambling on whether the empire can hold on and defeat the Tianji Empire and the Blackstone Empire. If they can, we will be the heroes of the Shattered Cauldron realm in the future. We will be famous generals with unparalleled merits. This is because the current situation in the Shattered Cauldron realm has never been seen in 10,000 years. What do you think, Your Highness?" Lin Muyu glanced at him and jumped down from the huge rock. She said, "You're really good at judging people now. You're getting better at being an official." I'm completely reliant on Your Highness's guidance." "Cut the crap. Is there any other news?" "Yes, there's another piece of good news. The Celestial Empire has declared war on the Blackstone Empire. Both sides have already started fighting at the border. This was news from 3 days ago." "Has the Celestial Empire finally made a move?" Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. "It seems that Chen Yu has already ascended to the throne. Your Highness is wise. Chen Yu is indeed the ruler of the Celestial Empire now." That's good, that's good." With Qin Yu holding back part of the main forces of the Tianji Empire and the Blackstone Empire in the east, we'll have enough time to breathe here. Yes, is there any news about Shaoxi? Not yet. No news is a good thing. This means that the Seven Seas province hasn't started fighting yet. Yes. Chapter 883. In the western part of the Yunling Mountains, 3/4 of the Yunzhong province was surrounded by clouds and mist. The Yunling Mountains were much steeper and more rugged than the Qinling Mountains. The Qinling Mountains might be able to deceive people by crossing the mountains, but it was impossible in the Yunling Mountains. It was thousands of meters above sea level, and it snowed all year round. Avalanches and storms were common occurrences. Not to mention human soldiers, even gods were not willing to face such a severe natural power. Tongyun Pass, a pass that stretched for 5 kilometers, was located between two mountains of the Yunling Mountains. It was also the largest passage between the Seven Seas province and the Yunzhong province. But after the war, the gate of Tongyun Pass had been closed, and it refused to let businessmen and refugees pass through. However, the Yunzhong province had fallen, and countless people who had lost their homes still gathered in the fertile land in the east of Tongyun Pass. Every day, people died of hunger, and no one buried their bodies. The plague had begun to spread. On the gate, Tang Xiaoxi, dressed in a red dress, looked at the refugee camp in the east from a distance, and said, "Can we really not come up with a plan?" Next to her, Chen Xiaoli cupped his hands and said, "Princess, we really can't open the gate. No one knows whether there are soldiers of the Tianji Empire among the refugees. Once they sneak in and open the gate, Tongyun Pass will be in danger. Behind Tongyun Pass are the 40 million people of the Empire of the Seven Seas province." Tang Xiaoxi was silent. After a while, she raised her head, and her bright eyes were particularly cold. "In the afternoon, send my cavalry out of the pass to bring food and water to comfort the people. After all, they are the people of the empire. If we ignore their lives for the sake of the war, what can we do even if we win the war? But princess, don't say it. If Mu and Feng Jixing were here, they would do the same." Chen Xiaoli was a little speechless. As a professional soldier, he knew what to do and what not to do. At this moment, Tang Xiaoxi's actions were not in line with the art of war, but they were in line with the way of a king. Therefore, Chen Xiaoli was a little lost and did not know what to do. Ouyang Yen pursed her red lips and said, "There's a plague outside the city called Lai Xie. Once infected, one's entire body will fester and die, and there's no cure at all. 3 out of 10 commoners outside the city are infected with this plague. Princess Shi, are you sure you want to bring them into the city? But big sister Chu Yao isn't here. Otherwise, she would definitely have a way to cure this plague." Tang Xiaoxi frowned. "But I can't just watch them die outside the city. Ouyang, do you have any good ideas?" Ouyang Yen was taken aback. "Use my method?" "Yes. That's easy. Just burn them down and everything will be over. Pretend I didn't ask." In the afternoon, the city gates of Tongyun Pass opened. Tang Xiaoxi led 100 cavalrymen out of the city, followed by a transport team that brought supplies from the Seven Seas province into the forest. When this princess appeared in the crowd, the commoners were all dumbfounded. Many of them were covered in ulcers and pus flowed from their bodies, but they didn't expect to see the nobility of the empire before they died. "It's Princess Shi. It's Princess Shi. She's here to bring us food. The empire hasn't given up on us." No one knew who shouted, but everyone knelt down and shouted, "Long live Princess Shi! Long live Princess Shi!" Tang Xiaoxi led her horse and slowly passed through the crowd. Looking at the faces that yearned to live, she felt extremely uncomfortable. The war brought so much pain to the people, but it wasn't something she could control. It would be great if this war could end earlier. It was also at this moment that people felt that Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, Wei Chou, and the other soldiers who fought for the empire were adorable and worthy of respect. "Everyone, please be quiet." Tang Xiaoxi's voice was very clear, and her voice contained the power of laws and spread very far. The crowd quickly quietened down. Tang Xiaoxi looked at the people around her and said, "The empire will never abandon you, and the Qin family will never abandon you. However, the enemy is very strong, and we still need time. Please believe in me, Tang Xiaoxi. The empire will definitely win this war. I've brought food and water for everyone, so please don't fight for it." Everyone cheered in unison. However, at this moment, an old man with a festering left leg looked at Tang Xiaoxi blankly and said, "Princess Shi, does this mean that the empire doesn't intend to open Tongyun Pass and let us go to the Seven Seas province?" Tang Xiaoxi was a little sad and said, "The plague is wreaking havoc outside the city. Once everyone enters Tongyun Pass, the plague will wreak havoc inside the pass, and our 150,000 elite soldiers will face annihilation. However, don't worry, I'll send people to set up tents outside the pass and provide food and water every day." "What did you say? Are you telling us to wait for death here?" A burly man with festering face roared angrily, "We are the people of the empire, why can't we enter Tongyun Pass? You useless nobles only know how to enjoy yourselves in a good place, and you don't care about the lives of our people at all." The people fell into a desperate situation and began to curse. "Scram, put away your hypocritical face. The Qin family is all trash, and you're just a dog of the Qin family. You're even more useless. Hypocritical empire, die early." Tang Xiaoxi turned around, still leading her warhorse, and walked in the direction of Tongyun Pass. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She had never suffered such humiliation before. Around her, the refugees even picked up stones and threw them at her, but they were all bounced off by the power of the divine wall. Ouyang Yen followed behind Tang Xiaoxi without saying a word. After walking for a while, Ouyang Yen said, "Let's follow my method and burn them down." "No." Tang Xiaoxi looked at the weeds under the horse's hooves and cried loudly, "I represent the royal family of the Qin Empire. They can let me down, but I can't let them down. Mu and Xiao Yin have already suffered so much. How can I throw a tantrum here? She was sobbing. Everyone understood the reason, but who could guarantee that they would be able to bear it if they really reached the point of being deserted by their own people? Ouyang Yen pursed her red lips and said, "No wonder Qin Han chose to ascend without hesitation. The matters of the mortal world are indeed as muddy as a pool of muddy water. Unfortunately, Lin Muyu and you are too attached to promises and responsibilities. Otherwise, you can directly ascend to the Eastern Heaven realm. With the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor protecting you, you can completely dominate the Eastern Heaven realm." "Don't say any more, Ouyang." Tang Xiaoxi bit her red lips and said, "Leave the food and water behind. All the guards who go out of the city with us must be isolated for observation. They can only stop the isolation if there is no illness within 10 days. You and I, the same. Don't worry, we are gods. This kind of plague in the mortal world can't infect our bodies at all. Are we really that powerful? Of course. Then why do I feel that I have suffered so much?" Tang Xiaoxi's eyes were red. Ouyang Yen looked at her with some heartache, "Because you are a good person. Kind people are bullied by others. Human nature is like this, selfish and greedy. You always think for others, but others may not do the same. Follow my temper and burn these ungrateful, stupid and ignorant people. We are gods, and we are qualified to release them from purgatory. No need." Tang Xiaoxi shook her head. "The Qin family needs the hearts of the people and the world to save the dynasty of the great Qin Empire. There are some things I can't do. Go back." "Okay." On the city wall, Chen Xiaoli looked at everything from afar and didn't say a word. After a while, she said to the 2 deputies behind her, "I will help Princess Shi with the things she can't do. Go and make preparations. We will take action after midnight. Yes, Lord Commander. Night fell. When night fell, the city gates opened and a group of 7 Seas City's elite cavalry galloped out. They held torches in their hands, and the horses behind them had heavy sacks strapped to their backs. Each sack was filled with Jin coins. Chen Xiaoli held her spear and galloped at the front. She charged into the refugee camp and started to scatter gold coins into the crowd. At the same time, she shouted, "Take the money and go to Twilight Rain City to find a way out. Don't stay here. Take the money and you can live. If you continue to stay here, you can only wait for death." The crowd was in a mess, and the people fought for the gold coins. Chen Xiaoli brought a total of nearly 1,000 cavalrymen out of the city. Everyone's mouth and nose were covered with cloth, and they scattered gold coins everywhere. When every commoner received a lot of gold coins, Chen Xiaoli immediately raised her spear and shouted, "Go! Everyone leave! Kill those who don't leave!" Many people in the crowd of refugees objected. Dang, 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 their swords were unsheathed, and the cavalry soldiers swiftly cut down dozens of stubborn people. Fresh blood was still dripping from the blades, and the refugees were all stunned. They had never thought that Chen Xiaoli would actually dare to make a move. "Scram! If you don't scram now, you will all die under my blade." Chen Xiaoli was decisive. She raised her spear and had a bit of Feng Jixing's demeanor. The cavalry drove the people out of the refugee camp and headed straight for Twilight Rain City. The next morning, Tang Xiaoxi was furious when she received the news of the chaos outside the city last night. In the general's residence, Chen Xiaoli was already tied up and kneeling in the hall with the 2 deputies. "What is going on?" Tang Xiaoxi was so angry that her face turned red. "Chen Xiaoli, how dare you use weapons against the people? Do you still have me in your eyes?" "Yes." Chen Xiaoli knelt on the ground and said with red eyes, "Princess Shi, Chen Xiaoli, was originally a general of 7 Seas City. I was promoted by Prince Xian after my father died. I, Chen Xiaoli, am a general of the Tang clan. I'm not willing to see Princess Shi suffer such humiliation. I've already chased away the bunch of ingrates outside the city, but I've given them gold horn coins so that they won't starve to death on the road. Moreover, if they bring the plague to Twilight Rain City, they will also spread it to the hundreds of thousands of Long Ji Corps and Wolf soldiers in Twilight Rain City. Why shouldn't we do it? What about the millions of people in Twilight Rain City?" Tang Xiaoxi said indifferently, "Who will care about their lives?" Chen Xiaoli raised her head, her proud face full of smiles. "There's no such thing as having the best of both worlds. Wanting to defeat the enemy and protect the people at the same time, there hasn't been such a thing since ancient times. Princess Shi, behead me and use my head as a sacrifice to those who died in vain. Use my blood to wash away the stain I brought to the Qin clan. You really have the guts to say that." Tang Xiaoxi slammed the table. "Drag her out and behead her." Everyone was shocked and trembled in fear, not daring to speak. Ouyang Yan's lips curled up. "You generals are all fools. Don't you know how to plead for mercy?" The group of generals hurriedly knelt together and pleaded for mercy. "On account of so many people pleading for mercy, I'll spare your life." Tang Xiaoxi didn't want to kill Chen Xiaoli. Otherwise, who would be guarding the city and leading the troops? Her gaze turned cold and she said indifferently, "Demote her by 1 rank, forfeit her salary for half a year, and put her in confinement for a day." "Yes." Chen Xiaoli's face was full of smiles as if she had been promoted by 3 ranks. "Thank you, Princess Shi, for sparing my lowly life." Chapter 884. There was no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. The news of Lingnan finally reached the eastern capital, Dongshuang City. The entire eastern capital was shaken. No one would have thought that even a famous general like Su Jiantao had surrendered to someone else. From the messenger's mouth, they could even faintly feel that Su Jiantao had surrendered. In Ling Shi's palace, the officials were discussing. Everyone had already arrived before the morning court started. Without a doubt, the matter of Lingnan would be the first major event of today's court. Lin Muyu, who had hurried back to Dongshuang City the day before, had already put on Wang Ju's armor and entered the palace side by side with Qin Yan. In the days when Feng Jixing wasn't here, only the two of them had the final say. "Big brother, is the news true?" Qin Yan and Lin Muyu stood side by side in front of the throne and asked worriedly. "Yes, it's most likely not fake." Lin Muyu nodded and looked at the officials. She found that Su Yu, Zhen Yifan, Zhen Fang, and the others all had anxious expressions. Everyone knew that the military force of Lingnan was already one of the main forces of the empire. Xiang Yu's 70,000 men and Su Jiantao's 50,000 made up a total of 120,000 elites. They were the Qin Empire's reliance against the Blackstone Empire. If these 120,000 men and horses all surrendered to someone else, then Lingnan had already changed its banner. "The court meeting begins," the eunuch announced loudly. Outside the palace, a group of imperial guards guarded all the entrances and exits. Their swords and armor were bright and glowed faintly under the morning light. The Qin Empire had lasted for tens of thousands of years. No one knew how long this light could shine. Almost everyone in the world felt that the Qin Empire's fate had come to an end. However, Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, Tang Xiaoxi, and the others were still working hard. They firmly believed that a miracle would happen. It had always been so. "Bring the messenger." Lin Muyu waved her hand and said indifferently. "Yes." Wei Chou cupped his fists and signaled with his eyes. Two soldiers from the Longdan army camp brought in a man in the Empire's military uniform. He had escaped from Lingnan, which was why he had released the news. "What's your name?" Lin Muyu asked without anger. "This lowly one's name is Fan and I." His entire body trembled. "Which department are you from?" This lowly one originally belonged to the 3rd Battalion of the military governor's office of Cangnan province. "I followed Lord Cangnan Marquis Su Jiantao on an expedition to Lingnan and was then assigned to the 11th Battalion of Combat. 6 days ago, this lowly one was still in Dragon Slaying Pass. Because I was punished for fighting with others, I stole a horse. Along the way, I earned gold and silver to cross the Qinling Mountains and came to Winter Frost City to look for your highness." Lin Muyu looked at him calmly. Her clear eyes seemed to be able to see through Fan and I. She said, "I won't pursue the matter of you defying military law for now. Tell me, what happened in Lingnan?" "Yes, your highness." Fan and I knelt on the ground again, raised his head, and said, "The Blackstone Empire marched straight into Lingnan and won every battle. Later on, the Marquis crushed their edge. After that, the Marquis gathered his troops in Dragon Slaying Pass. It was also at that time that we learned that the Celestial Pole Continent's Battle Angel Corps was split into two. They seemed to have split up. Dora was one faction, while Sheen was the other. Sheen led 6 battle angels and a group of troops using strange weapons to infiltrate Lingnan. Later on, for some reason, Duke Yu surrendered to Sheen. Furthermore, this lowly one heard that Sheen's army met Marshal Sheen of Iha country. Later on, the Marquis offered Dragon Slaying Pass and allowed Sheen's men to settle in. Have you seen Sheen?" "No." Fan and I shook his head and said, "But this subordinate saw with my own eyes that Sheen's men replaced ours. Although the Empire's purpline flower flag is still fluttering in Dragon Slaying Pass, Sheen's Battle Angel Corps' war flag is also fluttering. What is Su Jiantao doing?" Lin Muyu said, slightly angered. In the crowd, a middle-aged general cupped his fists and said, "Your Highness, Su Jiantao's troops have not reported any news to the eastern capital for nearly 10 days. Furthermore, the Battle Eagle scouts we sent have not returned. There is no news at all. This general believes that Su Jiantao's actions are tantamount to treason. The Battle Angels are people of the celestial pole continent. Giving dragon-slaying pass, the throat of Lingnan province, to the people of the celestial pole continent, is tantamount to treason. Another old minister also nodded. Your Highness, this subordinate concurs. Marquis Golden Worm and General Wang Qiu, please calm down. This matter has not reached the point where it is certain. No matter what, the Empire's war flag is still fluttering in Dragon-Slaying Pass and Divine Heaven Pass. I believe that Su Jiantao and Xiangyu must have some hidden troubles that are difficult to speak of. Lin Muyu gritted her teeth and asked with a cold face, Duke Fan, what do you think? Zheng Yifan kept a low profile and only smiled. Before Su Jiantao and Xiangyu see us, it is obviously impossible to make a conclusion based on the words of a small pawn. After all, a duke and a marquis are both powerful ministers of the empire who hold heavy military power. We cannot easily convict them. This old minister suggests that we send a trusted aide of your highness to Lingnan to investigate. This is a good idea. Lin Muyu looked disdainfully and asked, who is willing to go? Among the generals, Wei Chou was the first to stand out. I'll go. No. Lin Muyu shook her head. Wei Chou, you are more familiar with the defense of Luo River Estuary Fortress and Winter Frost City than me. We need you, Duke Wei. If you can't go, who else is willing to go? Situsen stepped out of the ranks. This subordinate is willing to go. You can't either. Why? Situsen was startled. Your Highness, you don't trust this general? No, General Sun, you are too hot-tempered. If there is any mistake in this matter, I am afraid it will lead to unnecessary trouble. After all, we do not know what that Xin's attitude is at the moment. So. Fengshi, don't hide. You will go to Dragon-Slaying Pass on my behalf. Fengshi frowned. Yes, Your Highness. What, you are not willing? Yes. Fengshi raised his head and said, Your Highness also knows that Bai Minghuan is mobilizing troops to attack Winter Ridge Province. The next battle will decide the fate of Eastern Capital. This subordinate wants to stay here and make a contribution. You want to make a contribution? Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. That is easy. As long as your diplomatic mission to Dragon-Slaying Pass goes smoothly and you can come back alive, I will immediately promote you by 1 rank. You will be in charge of a 20,000-man army. How about it? Really? Of course. Thank you, Your Highness. Fengshi knelt down on one knee. Wait a moment. Su'er looked at the crowd with her bright eyes and smiled. General Fengshi is a soldier after all. He is firm and not soft. How about sending another woman to go with him? A woman? Qin Yen was startled. At this time, the first person in the line of female court officials stood up. It was a graceful woman. She was the first female court official by Qin Yen's side, Shangguan Jingyue. In the blink of an eye, several years had passed, and Shangguan Jingyue had matured even more. That kind of steady and virtuous charm could be seen at a glance. She respectfully said, Your Highness, let me go with Sir Fengshi. Back then, Jingyue had also represented Her Highness on a diplomatic mission to Bailing City. This time, going to Dragon-Slaying Pass to see our own people, I think. Jingyue is more suitable than anyone else. Shangguan Jingyue, aren't you worried that Su Jiantao will really rebel? Lin Muyu smiled and asked. Shangguan Jingyue smiled as well. Your Highness' eyes are like torches. Over the years, many generals of the empire have betrayed or fled, but none of Your Highness's men have betrayed you. So, Shangguan Jingyue firmly believes that Lord Su Jiantao isn't that kind of person. If he is, then he wouldn't dare to fight the 200,000-strong army of the Darkstone Empire commanded by Bailey Qin. Good, you are indeed courageous and insightful. Lin Muyu smiled with satisfaction. However, you cannot bring too many people. After all, the eastern capital also needs manpower, so I will give you 200 and 100 cavalry guards. When you arrive at the dragon-slaying pass, you need to investigate the truth of the matter. Also, bring an Empire's Golden Star Medal. If Su Jiantao did not commit treason, then bestow him with a Golden Star Medal as a reward. That is what he deserves. Yes. In the afternoon, the diplomatic team left Winter Frost City. The development of the situation was becoming more and more bizarre, and Lin Muyu was already completely unable to guess what was going on. However, he could not personally go to the southern ridges. After all, a battle could break out at the mouth of the Luo River at any time. Once he left, it was likely that it would be difficult for the four absolutes of White Leaves and Chu Chu to resist the numerous God Realm experts of the Tianji Empire. When it was close to evening, Wei Chou directly entered Lingxi Palace and said in a low voice, 5 merchant ships from the Blackstone Empire have docked at the Blue Wind Harbor. They claim to be your Highness's people, and they have delivered the things your Highness needs. Did they say who sent them? They said it was your Highness's younger sister. Lin Muyu's heart thumped. It was Si Kongyao, that's great. He immediately sat up from his desk and said, Wei Chou, fly with me to the Blue Wind Harbor and transport the goods back overnight. We cannot let them be robbed by the pirates of the Blackstone Empire. Yes. When night fell, 2 figures floated down from the sky. They were precisely Lin Muyu and Wei Chou. After the Blue Wind Sea battle, the Imperial Navy was almost completely annihilated. However, the Blue Wind Harbor was close to the mainland, so it was still in the hands of the Empire. However, there were not many soldiers stationed here, only a few thousand. Greetings, Your Highness. Greetings, Duke Wei. A group of Imperial soldiers knelt down one after another. Rise, bring me to see the goods. Yes. Inside the harbor, 5 large ships were currently unloading goods. When Lin Muyu and Wei Chou approached, a fat merchant walked forward with a face full of smiles. He cupped his fists and said, This lowly one, Zhuge Heng, greets your Highness you. You were sent by Yao? Yes, this lowly one was originally one of the secret merchants of the Celestial Emptiness sect. Eldest Miss Si Kongyao and leader Lu Bai spent a long time to gather these 5 ships' goods. Along the way, in order to open up the sea passage, they spent no less than 100,000 gold coins. Is that so? Lin Muyu was slightly delighted. What's inside? Zhuge Heng smiled and said, 4 of the ships are fully loaded with demon heart stones, enough to forge 500,000 demon heart arrows. The other ship is loaded with gold and silver that Baizé mercenaries plundered from the treasury of the Blackstone Empire, as well as some high-grade demon spirit stones that your Highness needs. Among them, eldest Miss Si Kongyao personally went to Celestial Emptiness City and asked for 7 Demon King-level demon spirit stones from Si Kongming. Before she left, she said that it was specially prepared for you, and others cannot use it without permission. Lin Muyu was stunned. Wei Chou secretly laughed at the side. Chapter 885. Did Yao really say that? Yes. Zhuge Heng nodded his head. Your Highness might not know this, but the Demon King-level demon spirit stones are simply too precious. Even the strongest sect in the continent, the Tianji sect, only has 11 Demon King-level demon spirit stones. This time, Big Miss asked for 8 in one go, saying that it was for her own cultivation. In reality, she only kept 1 for herself, and sent the rest to your Highness. Yao is too considerate. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. Zhuge Heng also smiled. With your Highness use words, eldest young Miss painstaking efforts were not wasted. This subordinate will tell her the truth. In addition, is there anything else your Highness wants me to tell eldest young Miss? How many soldiers does the Baizé mercenary team have? 100,000 people. Miss C. Kongyao borrowed 20 captaincy from General Zhang Cheng to help train the soldiers. Currently, the Bai Zhe mercenary team's combat power is quite high. They can still borrow the generals? Of course, General Zhang Cheng is Miss Shangqian's maternal grandfather. Miss Shangqian personally asked for it, so there's no reason not to borrow them in the future. Immediately return these generals after using them, don't keep them, Lin Muyu said. Understood. Zhuge Han was also an old fox. He smiled. The Bai Zhe mercenary team will fight with Zhang Cheng's army sooner or later, so the enemy's people naturally can't be kept. Huh, that's right. Someone, transport the goods and return to Winter Frost City overnight. Yes. Traveling through the night, they returned to Winter Frost City at noon the next day. Lin Muyu didn't sleep and personally sent the 20 carts of demonic heart stones to the weapons department to find Qin Xiling. When Qin Xiling saw so many demon heart stones, it was as if he had obtained a treasure. He was so happy that he almost danced with joy. Your Highness, where did you get so many demon heart stones? Great. Great. I have a secret channel, Xiling doesn't need to worry about it. Oh right, what have you been doing these days? Your Highness, follow me and you will know. Oh. Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, Situ Sun, and Situ Shui looked at each other and smiled. Then, they followed Qin Xiling into the large drill ground in the backyard of the Department of Ordnance. Clanking sounds came from afar. No one knew what was being forged. However, this was the secret base of the Qin Empire. Lin Muyu knew that the development of the Department of Ordnance was related to the fate of the entire Qin Empire. After walking for a short distance, they arrived at the archery testing base. A group of weapons division employees were busy loading arrows and then shooting at the rocks in front of them. Dang, dang, dang. The arrows sank into the rocks one after another, leaving only the feathers outside. That's the hardest rock in the Winter Ridge province. It's called Coxcomb Rock. Qin Xiling smiled and said, I've improved the torsion device of the arrow box, greatly increasing the shooting speed. Moreover, these arrows are tempered with the dual elements of demonic heart stone and white diamond. The lethality is multiplied. General Sun should also know the principle of shooting, right? Situ Sun nodded. I know a little about the Dragon Imperial Spiral. That's right. Qin Xiling said, although my cultivation is low, I also know that the Dragon Imperial Spiral is a kind of energy field similar to a whirlwind. The power of the Dragon Imperial Spiral is similar to a willow twig rotating with an axis. Its speed is very fast, so it can rely on the centrifugal force on the outside and the dragon crystal to withstand the bombardment of the magic crystal cannon. It can even withstand multiple bombardments without any damage. Therefore, I've focused on increasing the shooting speed of the arrows. As long as the arrows can enter the air flow of the spiral, it will be fine. Lin Muyu was silent. Your Highness, what do you think? Qin Xiling said. No. Lin Muyu shook her head. I've fought with the Dragon Knights many times, and I know the speed of the Dragon Imperial Spiral. Even if you've improved the speed of the arrow box, it's still far from being able to keep up. The speed of the torsion device is almost destined to be unable to keep up with the Dragon Imperial Spiral. I can give you an exact number. Within the domain of the Dragon Imperial Spiral, there will be at least 15 swirls of air in a second. A normal arrow box probably won't be able to keep up with that speed in its lifetime. My God, so fast. Qin Xiling was stunned. His entire person became somewhat dispirited. The idea that he had painstakingly worked on for half a month had become nothing more than a bubble because of a single sentence from Lin Muyu. This blow was just too great. On the blueprint to the side, there was a hand-drawn drawing of the operating principle of the Dragon Imperial Spiral. The giant dragon and the Dragon Knight were very lifelike. Lin Muyu flipped through a few of the blueprints, and couldn't help but marvel at Qin Xiling's conscientiousness. Unfortunately, the development of technology was far from enough. Because of the lack of gunpowder, they lacked the most basic driving force. If the arrows could reach the flying speed of bullets, then they might be able to cause a certain amount of damage to the god-level dragon knight. Gunpowder, oh gunpowder! He couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Could it be that the heavens were torturing him? Unfortunately, the shattered cauldron realm didn't have sulfur, so it was naturally impossible to develop gunpowder. What's gunpowder? Qin Xiling was startled. It's nothing. Lin Muyu leaned on the table, thought for a moment, and said, gunpowder is a product from another plane. Once it explodes, it will produce a huge shockwave, allowing the object to reach an unimaginable speed. If we had gunpowder, we could use the demon heart arrow to shoot it. We should be able to achieve an unexpected result. Propelled by the explosion of gunpowder? Qin Xiling blankly stood where he was. Suddenly, he slapped his thigh and laughed loudly. Thank you, Your Highness, for the reminder. Ha ha ha, this is great. Thank you, Your Highness, for the reminder. Lin Muyu looked at him with a stunned expression. Xiling, what are you doing? It's like you've won the lottery. Qin Xiling was extremely excited. His entire body trembled, and he stared at her with disheveled hair and a dirty face, saying, It was Your Highness who reminded me. The shockwave produced by the explosion can greatly increase speed. Perhaps it can break through the limit of speed and destroy the defense of the Dragon Imperial Spiral. So what? Could it be that Your Highness has forgotten the astonishing power produced by the explosion of the magic crystal cannon? What if we cast the arrowhead of the demon heart arrow on the outside of the magic crystal cannon, and then use the power produced by the explosion of the magic crystal cannon to send the demon heart arrow to destroy the Dragon Imperial Spiral? Really? Lin Muyu turned pale with fright. Yes, at least we can try. Qin Xiling laughed excitedly, and Lin Muyu also laughed along as if she had seen the light of dawn. At the side, Wei Chou poured cold water on them. Your Highness, Lord Xiling, don't forget how high the temperature produced by the explosion of the magic crystal cannon is. When we fought against the demons, their armor demons were wearing thick and heavy armor. A magic crystal cannon wouldn't even leave a scrap behind, let alone a small arrowhead like the demon heart arrow. Lin Muyu stilled. That's true. Qin Xiling hadn't calmed down from his excitement yet. His forehead was covered in sweat, and he said, It's fine, we just need to find some materials that can withstand high temperature to melt and refine the demon heart stone. But how can materials that can withstand the high temperature of the magic crystal cannon be melted and refined into a demon heart stone? Wei Chou said. Ah. Qin Xiling was stunned for a moment, and then he pointed at the door of the weapons division. Duke Wei, get out, you are not welcome here. Lin Muyu laughed loudly and patted Qin Xiling's shoulder. Don't rush, think slowly, there will be a way. Qin Xiling nodded, and said, Your Highness, please be at ease, Xiling will definitely think of a suitable way to forge this godly weapon, and help our Qin family reverse the situation. We'll leave it to you, then we won't bother you anymore. Xiling, you must remember to eat on time, you've already lost weight. Have you used the few demon race beauties I gave you a few days ago as concubines? No, not yet. Late at night, Lin Muyu once again refined a Demon King level demon spirit stone. Ever since he started cultivating the invisible elephant arts, his body was like a dry well, thirsting for the nourishment of spirit energy. Speaking of which, it was strange that his chi seemed to have expanded a lot because of the invisible elephant arts. It was bottomless, and even if it was a Demon King level demon spirit stone, he could still absorb at least 80% of its power. Hugh, with a light breath, the demon spirit stone had already completely disappeared from his palm, and the turbid breath flew into the room through his mouth and nose. Having just finished refining, Lin Muyu could only feel his blood boiling, and this made him very excited. Could it be that he was about to break through again? This invisible elephant art simply made him feel as if he had the help of the gods. Even in the entire 3 realms, there wouldn't be many people with this kind of breakthrough speed, right? He began to gather the divine power in his body, and attack the profound entrances of his Qi again and again. The first 30 waves were extremely easy, and only when he reached the 31st wave did he feel a little strained, but he could still control it. In the blink of an eye, he had already broken through the 36th wave. He continued to gather all of his divine power together without hesitation, and crazily attacked the entrance of the profound entrances. With a pu sound, the profound entrances were broken. An intense pain came from his body, but Lin Muyu still maintained a clear mind. Just now, he had already broken through the 37th layer of heavenly passage, but he felt that there was still a bit of potential left in his body, and he could still continue to stimulate it. A crazy thought flashed through his mind: break through 2 realms in one go. The 38th wave crazily surged, and began to attack the 38th profound entrances that had just been formed. Under the crazy attack, the lustrous profound entrances began to distort, and the pain it brought was naturally not something that ordinary people could endure. Lin Muyu let out a cry and spat out a mouthful of blood. The power in his body was like a raging river, and the god-binding chains, the 7 luminaries' holy gourd, the dragon blood battle shield, and other powers quickly passed through his body, and were glowing with a buzzing sound. Was he going to go berserk? He was slightly startled, and his mind was already starting to blur. As expected, one shouldn't be too extreme in cultivation. At this moment, Lin Muyu already began to feel a little regretful, but what was the use of regretting? Acatosaurus. A roar that came from the depths of his soul instantly tore open the plain behind him, and Acatosaurus flew out with a loud and clear dragon roar, and transformed into a dragon armor that wrapped around Lin Muyu. At the same time, its dragon power formed a shield, and prevented its master's divine power from leaking. Chapter 886. Your Highness, are you all right? Wei Chou and Bai Yin rushed in at almost the same time, only to see Lin Muyu lying on the ground, in the form of dragon scale armor. Her body was trembling slightly, and she had already fainted. Oh no, Your Highness has gone mad. Quickly call Head Deacon Chu Yao and Lord Chu Chu. Wei Chou turned pale with fright. At dawn the next day, half of Lin Muyu Hall was in an uproar. There were at least 10 people surrounding Lin Muyu's room. Chu Chu and Chu Yao were protecting her, while Wei Chou, Su Yu and the others were frowning. No one would have thought that Lin Muyu would actually go mad in cultivation at this time. The power has been basically controlled. Chu Yao released Lin Muyu's wrist, covered herself with the blanket, and stood up. I just need to rest for a while, don't worry everyone. Before she finished speaking, Lin Muyu had already let out a long sigh, and slowly woke up from her coma. At the moment she woke up, Acatosaurus removed its armor and turned into a large dragon, squatting by the bed, and winking at its master who had just woken up. You, how is it? Chu Chu asked. I'm fine, Chu, but in reality, her whole body was still sore, but when Lin Muyu slightly circulated her energy, she discovered that the divine power in her body seemed to be longer and more profound. It was a blessing in disguise, and she actually broke through to the 38th layer of Grotto Heaven. Successor, you are too impatient for success. The one who spoke was Scholar Ling Ice Palm and Fire Fist should still be guarding the Luo River estuary, and he rushed over after receiving the news. Lin Muyu nodded, but her mind was full of doubts. She said, Su Hao, I feel that my body has become a little strange. My capacity for energy seems to have increased a lot, to the point where I can't completely fill it even after refining a demon spirit stone every day. What's going on? Isn't this state very abnormal? Scholar Ling smiled. No, it is very normal. How so? The invisible elephant art was created by Fuxi, the celestial emperor. When he sent me the message, he told me that the invisible elephant art stimulates your potential in all aspects. The reason why you feel that your body's capacity has increased is because your potential is constantly being stimulated by the invisible elephant art. Furthermore, you have the disposition of a sovereign, the ruler of the 3 realms. This stage is called the recovery period by the Celestial Emperor, which means that your cultivation was originally higher than this level. With the help of the invisible elephant art, you will quickly recover to the level of strength that you should have, a level that is enough to fight against the gods and Buddhas. How long will the recovery period last? That would depend on the successor's talent and the degree of refinement of their supreme godhead. Scholar Spirit smiled. In short, you don't have to worry too much about your successor. This recovery period is simply a gift from the heavens. Just enjoy it. Yes. At the side, Chuyao smiled bitterly and said, in that case, isn't Yu's cultivation increasing further and further away from ours? Chu laughed heartily and said, yes. Scholar Spirit couldn't help but smile. Great Deacon Chuyao, don't worry. You are the successor's elder sister. Even if the successor is the strongest in the world, he will not forget you in the end. Also, the stronger the successor is, the more help he can provide to his friends. Of course, there was help, such as the 1,000 demon spirit stones that Si Kongyao sent over. Lin Muyu suddenly felt a little dizzy and said, I'm a little tired. Everyone, go back to your work. Let me rest for a while. The crowd dispersed. A Catasaurus shook its head. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. She reached out and patted its big head and asked, where have you been these days? Why can't I sense your existence? A Catasaurus replied loudly. Lin Muyu's face darkened. She couldn't understand anything and said, Wei Cho, send someone to feed a Catasaurus meat. It's probably hungry. Yes, Your Highness. Continuing to lie on the bed, Lin Muyu didn't do anything this time. However, the divine power in her body flowed like a stream. It was as if every cell in her body was recovering. Just like what Scholar Spirit said, her body was recovering to an unknown peak strength. She really didn't know to what extent she would recover. Perhaps she would be able to enter the ranks of the God Emperors? If that was the case, it would be great. At least she wouldn't be at a complete disadvantage when she encountered other God Emperors. 3 days later, Lin Muyu broke through again and stepped into the 39th Grotto Heaven realm. On the 8th of June, the Blackstone Empire's Gale Legion was defeated. The Celestial Empire's 700,000-strong army marched straight in and pounced on the Blackstone Empire's capital, Thousand Mountain City. The war in the Celestial Pole continent was already in full swing. Tianji City, Imperial Palace Hall. Baiming Yuan squinted his eyes and placed his palm on the armrest of the throne. The officials below the steps all had a solemn expression. At this moment, no one dared to speak for fear of saying something wrong. The Gale Legion was defeated. It's a good defeat. Baiming Yuan suddenly stood up, and his gaze was slightly savage as he laughed. This kid, Chen Yu, is really formidable, even Feng Yang isn't a match for him. The Dark Stone Empire is about to be finished. Are all of you satisfied now? Once the Blackstone Empire is destroyed by the Celestial Empire, Chen Yu's next target will be us. He suddenly stomped his feet and the hall instantly started buzzing and trembling. Baiming Yuan looked at the officials with a face full of anger and said, What's wrong? Why aren't you saying anything? In the crowd, General Zhang Cheng slowly walked out with his hand on the hilt of his sword and said, Your Majesty, according to what I know, Tianju's sect dispatched nearly 10,000 cultivators. Among them, there are many experts above the sacred martial warrior level helping them in the battle. That's how they managed to defeat the Celestial Empire. Moreover, the Gale Legion led by Feng Yang was originally weaker than the Celestial Empire. Old General, you're right. Baiming Yuan's expression was slightly respectful. After all, Zhang Cheng was a sacred martial god, the treasure of the entire empire. Baiming Yuan slowly walked back to the throne and sat down. He said, How long can Thousand Mountain City last? Zhang Cheng said, Thousand Mountain City is the capital of the Blackstone Empire, but it's also the nest of the Thunderblaze sect. I think Longxi won't just sit back and watch. Once the Thunderblaze sect takes action, the tomes in their hands will be used. It's hard to say who will win, but at least Thousand Mountain City will be able to defend for 2 or 3 months. Moreover, if the Blackstone Empire is willing, they can recruit mercenaries from all over the country to help the Emperor. The Celestial Empire's troops in the territory of the Blackstone Empire are so long that they won't have it easy. Old General, do you think we should launch a surprise attack on the Celestial Empire now? Baiming Yuan squinted his eyes. It's time to let that brat, Chen Yu, know how powerful he is. Zhang Qing smiled. Your Majesty, you can't underestimate Chen Yu. He's a schemer, and he's definitely not as simple as you think. Moreover, our army's battle in the Broken Cauldron realm has dragged on for too long. It's said that Marshal Baiming Huan's food supply is very tight. We're already in deep trouble in the Broken Cauldron realm. If we fight with the Celestial Empire again, I'm afraid we won't even be able to protect ourselves in the end. Then what should we do? Baiming Yuan was a little angry. Old General, do you have any ideas? Yes. Zhang Qing sneered. It's said that the Qin Queen of the Qin Empire, Lin Muyu, met Chen Yu once. The two of them must have some secret plan to attack the Tianji Empire. But we all know that both of them have ulterior motives and wild ambitions. In my opinion, why don't we beat them at their own game? How do we beat them at their own game? The smoother our battle in the Broken Cauldron realm, the more likely it is that Chen Yu will attack us. But if our battle doesn't go well, Chen Yu will definitely think that we might give up on the Broken Cauldron realm and withdraw our troops. Why don't? Your Majesty, send an order for Marshal Baiming Huan's troops to withdraw from Tongtian Province and move to 8 Desolation Province from the sea to meet up with Long Ji's troops to prevent us from being attacked from both sides. Once this news reaches Chen Yu's ears, he will think that we might increase our troops in the Broken Cauldron realm and attack the Blackstone Empire with all his might. We can then take advantage of this and attack the Celestial Empire's scorching cold city directly. Then we can't do anything now? No, we can. We can help the Blackstone Empire appropriately. Oh? What appropriate way? Your Majesty, as you know, half a month ago, 2 of the Blackstone Empire's top 10 mercenary corps were surrounded by us on the mountain at the border. At this time, we might as well open this gap and send our cavalry to expel these 2 mercenary corps to attack the Celestial Empire's army. This way, we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. On one hand, we can help the Blackstone Empire greatly, and on the other hand, we can weaken the Celestial Empire's army. Ha 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 ha, Baiming Yuan laughed loudly. Old General Zhang Qing is indeed astute and astute. I can't help but admire you. Alright, let's follow your plan of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Yes. In addition, is the Tianji sect willing to send troops? No. An attendant said, Your Majesty, sect leader Sikong Ming has already rejected our requests 3 times. He said that unless there are enemies invading our Tianji Empire's land, the Tianji sect will not participate in any war. This stubborn old man, Baiming Yuan frowned. Let him be. We can't care so much anymore. Is there any news from the Forest of No Return? How is the demonic spirit clan? Zhang Qing said, the demon emperor Nu Sha has been rather active recently. She has mobilized the demonic spirit clan's army in the Forest of No Return. It seems like she has some ulterior motives. We have to be on guard. Yes. In the Western God realm, outside the Divine Palace, hundreds of angel-level powerhouses stood densely packed together. These powerhouses had come from various star regions, and they were all waiting for their ruler, Claude's words. Amidst the buzzing sound, Claude walked out of the shrine with his entire body wrapped in the chaotic light source energy. He looked at the crowd indifferently. Greetings, ruler. Rise. Claude smiled faintly. The celestial pole continent, which is known as the Western Divine Realm's cradle of geniuses, is in trouble. I believe everyone is aware of this. This time, we have gathered everyone here to exile all of you. We will let you travel to the Celestial Pole Continent from another plane and help the people of the Celestial Pole Continent win the war quickly. Yes. No one had any doubts. Chapter 887. On the 11th of June, at noon, the scorching sun shone on the dense forest to the north of the Luo River estuary fortress. There were herds of muntjac deer in the forest, badgers running around, and pythons as thick as the mouth of a bowl slithered along the edge of the stream. This forest was classified as a forbidden area by the eastern capital. There were soldiers guarding the perimeter. Hunters and farmers were not allowed to enter, in case they were hurt by the spiritual beasts in the forest. However, there was still a group of people in the forest. They were dressed in the summer military uniforms of the empire. Their armors were taken off and hung on the backs of horses. Wei Chou and Bai Yin were guarding this place with nearly 100 guards of the Longdan army camp. Lin Muyu was cultivating in the forest. After several days of cultivation, his strength had broken through again. This time, he was going to break through the second sky of the God King realm and reach the 40th Grotto Heaven realm. Under a towering ancient tree, Lin Muyu's eyes were tightly shut. His entire body was emitting a faint golden light. He was sitting on the ground, rippling with the power of the golden elephant wheel. Using the formless elephant's secret art to promote his cultivation had become one of his instincts. Sparks were bursting in the air. It looked normal, but in fact, the power in Lin Muyu's body was very shocking. Waves of God waves were rushing towards the hidden gate. As long as he broke through this hidden gate, he would be among the God State experts who were above the 40th Grotto Heaven realm. However, it was already very difficult for those who had the supremacy to cultivate. Even during the recovery period, it was quite difficult. The veins on his face were bulging and he was sweating. The grass around him had evaporated and turned into a pile of withered grass. The pythons and poisonous snakes that were entrenched in the distance, trying to sneak up on him, felt an inexplicable fear. They all screamed and left. In their eyes, Lin Muyu's strength had completely exceeded the scope of a human being's ability. Pa 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 pa, the sound of the power explosion became more and more frequent. When it finally died out, Lin Muyu's body trembled slightly. Finally, he had broken through successfully. In his Yi-Hai, a golden cloud was slowly rotating. This was the symbol of the new ability he had obtained after stepping into the 40th Grotto Heaven realm, strategy. The divine stratagem was the ability to see through other people's minds. It was no different from the legendary mind-reading ability, or even better. The scope of the divine stratagem was wider. Mind-reading was originally something that hurt others and oneself. Spying on others made Lin Muyu feel a little contemptuous. He gritted his teeth and forcefully pushed the newly formed floating cloud into the depths of his EC. He did not want to have this ability. However, when all the golden clouds had sunk into the Yi-Hai could no longer remain calm. In the blink of an eye, waves surged and waves surged. Rays of golden energy pierced through the surface of the sea and shot into the sky. What's going on? Lin Muyu was surprised. In the sky, a crack tore open. It was the spiritual scholar and the Beeman King who was in a daze followed behind him. The spiritual scholar gently waved his paper fan and smiled. Successor, do you really not intend to obtain the power of divine strategy? This power of divine strategy is not something that ordinary people can have. It must be someone with outstanding talent and the right opportunity to awaken the power of divine strategy. This subordinate has seen the Pantheon canon and there are less than 10% of the people who have awakened the power of divine strategy. Successor, do you really not want it? I don't want it. Lin Muyu shook her head. Prying into other people's minds will increase the burden on your own mind. Rather than that, it is better to be magnanimous, isn't it? Successor, You are wise. The spiritual scholar gently waved his paper fan and smiled. That is why successor would rather give up the power of divine strategy. However, it is also a blessing. Oh? What blessing? Since ancient times, there were a few people who gave up the power of divine strategy. However, only 1 or 2 people obtained this blessing. After giving up the power of divine strategy, the power of divine strategy would hibernate in the depths of the High and form a barrier to prevent other people's spiritual power from invading. In other words, other god emperors would not be able to see into the successor's mind. This ability is called the anti-divine strategy power in the Pantheon canon. Now, successor has obtained this ability. This is really worthy of celebration. I see. Lin Muyu smiled. This ability is not bad. It would not feel good to always be seen through by others. Yes, the spiritual scholar squinted his eyes and said, Successor, I used my divine power to examine you and found that your invisible elephant technique has improved a lot. I wonder how long more it will take for you to break through and step into the 3rd stage, 100 elephants demon slaying. I do not know either. However, there are already more than 70 elephant wheels in my High that can be formed at the same time. That will be soon. Please continue to cultivate diligently, successor. Su Hao, why are you urging me so much? It is very simple. Scholar Ling cupped his fists respectfully and said, His Majesty the Sky Emperor asked me to assist the successor. Firstly, it is to ensure that the successor does not die. I am incompetent and my cultivation is low, so I can only rely on the successor to protect himself. Therefore, the only thing I can do is to assist the successor with all the secrets of the ancient books I have learned. His Majesty the Sky Emperor passed me the Pantheon canon to assist the successor. As he spoke, the spiritual scholar gently opened his palm. Immediately, a golden scroll flipped rapidly in his palm. It was the legendary Pantheon canon. It seemed that Fuxi had imparted many things. Although he was in the sky beyond heaven, Fuxi seemed to be more concerned about everything that happened in the Eastern Heaven realm than anyone else. However, at this moment, the Pantheon canon suddenly shone brightly and the pages trembled. What's going on? Lin Muyu asked in shock. Scholar Ling raised his head to look at the sky in the west. He couldn't help but frown as he said, the Pantheon canon seems to have sensed the fluctuations of the divine power of the Western divine realm. This is bad. Someone must have started to travel between planes again. Their target might be our shattered cauldron realm. What? Lin Muyu gritted her teeth and clenched her fists. Immediately, she controlled the power of heaven and earth around her and said sternly, Has the Western divine realm gone mad? Isn't it enough to send 10 battle angels? Do they want to destroy us completely? It seems so. The spiritual scholar stared at the energy fluctuation on the Pantheon canon. Only when the Pantheon canon no longer shone did he take a deep breath and say, Oh no, there are a total of 324 energy fluctuations. More than 50 of them belong to people above the Divine King level. Lin Muyu didn't say anything else. She stepped on a branch and flew to the periphery. She stood proudly in the air and said to Wei Chou and the others, Let's go back immediately. Pass down the order to strengthen the defenses of all cities. In addition, urge the weapons department to forge more demonic heart arrows. Yes. As he spoke, he looked towards the south. According to the time, Shengguan Jingyue and Fengxi should have already reached the dragon-slaying pass, right? Dragon-slaying pass. Summer was overflowing. Fengxi and the others took a small path and avoided the eyes of the Darkstone Empire's army. When they arrived outside the Dragon Slayer Pass, they saw the violet snow flower flag still fluttering on the pass, and the other was a slightly smaller battle angel flag. It seems that Marquis Tsangnan hasn't betrayed the Empire. Fengxi smiled in relief. Shengguan Jingyue nodded, her beautiful face covered with sweat. Today's weather was unusually hot, so much so that she wanted to take off her long skirt. Only, the rest of the people here were all grown men. If she took off her clothes, it was hard to guarantee that these people would be able to control themselves. After all, after Lin Muyu came to power, she completely abolished the military concubine system. The soldiers of the Qin Empire, perhaps many of them hadn't touched a woman for many years. Halt! On the city wall, a general took up his bow and shot an arrow. Puchi! The arrow fell to the ground 2 meters in front of the hooves of Fengxi's war horse. The general shouted, "Who goes there?" Fengxi took a Longdan army camp war flag from an attendant. On it was a large dragon-shaped insignia. He raised the war flag high and said loudly, "I am the commander of the rear army of the Longdan army camp, Fengxi. I have come to the dragon-slaying pass on the orders of the Qin Emperor. Please immediately open and close it." "Your Excellency Fengxi." The general was startled and said, "Your Excellency, please wait a moment. This subordinate will go and report to the Marquis. Please hurry." "Yes." In the mansion within the pass, Xin, Su Jiantao, Xiang Yu and the others gathered together. After receiving the report, Su Jiantao had an awkward expression and said, "Sure enough, what should come has come. Her Highness has actually sent Fengxi to the dragon-slaying pass. It seems that our news has already spread to the eastern capital. Your Excellency Xin, what do you think? The Her Highness you are talking about, is it Lin Muyu?" Xin said softly. When she spat out the 3 words Lin Muyu, her heart unexpectedly throbbed for no reason. It made her rather flustered, but she couldn't say why it was like this. "It is precisely the Qin Emperor, Lin Muyu. He is my sovereign king." Su Jiantao said, "According to the original agreement, Your Excellency Xin will help me guard the dragon-slaying pass. However, this city still belongs to the Qin Empire. I have no reason to refuse Fengxi's entry into the city, so. Your Excellency Xin, what do you think?" Xin closed her eyes and nodded. "Who you receive is your business. You are the master of the dragon-slaying pass. I and the Xin army are merely guests." "Good. Many thanks for Your Excellency Xin's understanding. Come, invite His Excellency Fengxi to enter the pass and directly bring him to the meeting hall." "Yes." Not long after, the sound of galloping horses could be heard from the outside. Fengxi was not the only one who had entered the meeting hall. A beautiful woman had also arrived. It was Shengguan Jingyue. When Shengguan Jingyue entered the meeting hall, she immediately saw Xiyin, who was wearing the battle angel's attire. She could not help but tremble and let out a cry. She stared at Xiyin in a daze. She looked exactly the same. Her voice and smile were exactly the same as when Qin Yin had died in the Crimson Abyss. "What's wrong, Excellency Shengguan?" Xiang Yu asked with a smile. Shengguan Jingyue didn't care about overstepping her authority. She slowly walked forward until she was less than 2 meters away from Xin. She stared blankly at her exquisite face and said, "Is it really you? Is it really you? Your Highness." At the side, Terralyn couldn't help but laugh. "Another one who has mistaken me for someone else." Xin didn't open her eyes. She gently raised the corner of her mouth. "Who are you? Do you know me?" "I am Jingyue." Shengguan Jingyue's body trembled slightly. She said, "Your Highness Yin, I am the Excellency Shengguan Jingyue who is guarding by your side. Can't you recognize my voice? Your eyes. What happened to your eyes?" "I'm fine. Moreover, I'm not Qin Yin." Xin smiled. "Call me Xin. I come from the Western Divine Realm. I am the younger sister of Her Excellency Shi Yan. I am the captain of the Battle Angel team." Shengguan Jingyue still wanted to say something. However, Fengxi interrupted her. He cupped his fists and said, General Fengshi pays his respects to Duke Yu and Marquis Tsangnan. Excellency Fengshi, you may rise. Fengshi straightened his body. His eyes were like torches. Marquis Tsangnan, why did you cut off communications with the eastern capital? Chapter 888. As a soldier of the Empire, Fengshi asked straightforwardly. Su Jiantao stood up and answered straightforwardly, because it's hard to explain in a few words. Is this reason enough? Yes. Fengshi bluntly walked to the side, sat down at an empty table, and said, then, this general will listen to why it's hard to explain in a few words. This time, this envoy to Dragon-Slaying Pass is under His Highness's order. As the saying goes, the mission must be accomplished. Please forgive this general for overstepping my authority. Su Jiantao nodded, Brother Fengshi, we are brothers who have eaten in the same pot. I won't hide it from you. Currently, Dragon-Slaying Pass is not only guarded by me, but also by Lord Xian's Xian Corps. If I remember correctly, the Angel Corps is helping the Celestial Pole Continent, right? Fengshi narrowed his eyes, and said, a battle angel called Dora not only killed the Marquis of Tranquil Sea, Yao Yuan, but also killed the Duke of North, Luo Xian. You should have heard of this matter, but why is it now? As you can see, Lord Xian is different from Dora. Su Jiantao clenched his teeth, and said, she may be Her Highness Qin Yin, but I can't remember for the time being. Fengshi also saw Xian's appearance, and naturally knew that she looked too much like Qin Yin. But resemblance was resemblance, and couldn't be discussed together, and said, even so, it's not a reason for you to refuse to interact with the eastern capital. I'm worried that Lord Xian's news will disturb His Highness Qin Wang's sense of propriety, Su Jiantao said indifferently. Fengshi was surprised. Shengguan Jingyue also pursed her red lips, but didn't say anything. Su Jiantao continued, His Highness, the Prince of Qin, has been waiting for her for a full 6 years. 6 years, and he has never seen her again. I can understand the pain of wanting to see her but not being able to. We all feel that His Highness, the Prince of Qin, is fighting side by side with us, but in reality, he has been lonely in the depths of his heart for 6 years. If we let him know that a person who closely resembles Her Highness Yin is in the Dragon-Slaying Pass, would he still be able to remain calm and defend the eastern capital? Fengshi remained silent, unable to refute. Su Jiantao waved his hand and said, taking 10,000 steps back, Dragon-Slaying Pass really does need Lord Xian's strength. Fengshi, it's not like you don't know that Lanyan City's treasury has been almost completely consumed by this war. The majority of the magicite cannons forged by the weapons department have been sent to the Lingdong, Dubhe, and Qihai provinces. I, Su Jiantao, have been allocated less than 50,000 magicite cannons, which were nearly used up in the Battle of Tsangnan province. Right now, I don't even have 10,000 magicite cannons on hand. How am I going to resist the 200,000 troops of the Blackstone Empire? What's more? Su Jiantao pressed his hand on the table, his palm slightly trembling as he said, Su Jiantao, am only a mortal. I also fear death. The majority of the Dragon Knights of the Blackstone Empire are at the God Realm, and Bailey Qin is even a God Emperor with exceedingly powerful strength. Do you really want me, Su Jiantao, to resist a God Emperor with my mortal body? I need the help of Xian and the Xian Corps, otherwise. I, Su Jiantao, will not be regretted even if I die, but the common people of Lingdong cannot escape the Blackstone Empire's slaughter and trampling. Do you understand all this? Fengshi was silent for a few seconds, then said in a low voice, Marquis Tsangnan, you've worked hard, it's not hard at all. Su Jiantao glanced at him, as long as I can live with dignity, no matter what, it's not hard at all. The Dragon-Slaying Pass is facing the threat of 200,000 troops of the Blackstone Empire, and war may break out every day. And the eastern capital is not much better. If Bai Minghuan is unable to take down the heaven-reaching gorge, he will definitely think of a way to seize the eastern capital's winter frost city. Your Highness will be even more miserable. I, Su Jiantao, do not want your Highness to be distracted, so I have cut off all correspondence with the eastern capital. If the dragon-slaying pass falls, Su Jiantao will definitely have already died for my country. Fengshi was silent. Xiangyu sneered, since your Highness you sent Lord Fengshi to the dragon-slaying pass, this means that someone in the eastern capital must have slandered you. Isn't that right, Lord Fengshi? Slandered? Fengshi couldn't help but smile. Lord Yu, may I ask where your 70,000 Shangyang city garrison army is? Right behind the dragon-slaying pass. If this one remembers correctly, from the Blue Wind Sea battle to the Battle of the Luo River estuary, and then to the Battle of the Southern Ridge, these 70,000 Shangyang city garrison army still remained 70,000 without a single casualty. Lord Yu truly leads his troops well. Fengshi sneered. His pair of eyes stared at Xiangyu with a threatening gaze. The meaning behind his words couldn't be any clearer. Xiangyu was afraid of battle and had never truly crossed swords with a strong enemy. To put it nicely, he was conserving his strength, but to put it bluntly, he was plotting a rebellion. Fengshi, what do you mean by that? Xiangyu faintly smiled. I don't mean anything. Lord Yu knows best in his heart. Fengshi stood up and said, since the matter has been clarified, this general will immediately return to the eastern capital to report everything to your Highness. Of course, I will not mention Xian's appearance. Su Jiantao stood up. Fengshi, rest for a night. Eat your fill before you leave. No need. Fengshi shook his head and smiled bitterly. His Highness has been waiting for my news every day. I can't wait to grow wings and fly back to the eastern capital. Su Jiantao, you must guard the dragon-slaying pass well. Don't distract His Highness any longer. He is already too tired. Yes, I know. Don't worry. Xian indifferently raised her head. Feeling the footsteps of Fengshi and Shengguan Jinghua leaving, she suddenly felt as if she had lost something in her heart. What's wrong, Xian? Terralyn asked. Nothing. She wasn't willing to say it. Her mind was in extreme pain and was about to become a mess. At this moment, she even hated herself for not remembering everything here. If everything was fake, why did she feel like she had met this place before? In the eastern heaven, above many spiritual mountains, lightning flickered. The crackling electric net formed a barrier that almost enveloped the entire sky above the eastern heaven realm. In the sky, a figure was faintly discernible. It was the 7 luminaries demon emperor who was holding the Pangu axe. He constantly used the power of the Pangu axe to strengthen the barrier while closing his eyes. His eyelids were twitching rapidly. What's wrong, demon emperor? At the side, Qing Ping and Sun Feng, the 298 heavenly path god emperors, were quietly waiting. They had already sensed the restlessness of the 7 luminaries demon emperor. Another god has disappeared from the list of the Western divine realm. The 7 luminaries demon emperor closed his eyes and said with an ashen face, Bastard Claude, he wants to send people to the shattered cauldron realm again. Does he really want to kill you so badly? Sun Feng frowned. You has the sovereign godhead. Any god would covet it. Claude's desire for this sovereign godhead must be extraordinarily strong. The more gods the Western divine realm sends to the celestial pole continent, the more it shows Claude's desire for power. Demon Emperor, we should also take action. There is no star cave in the eastern heaven. The 7 luminaries demon emperor opened his eyes. His deep eyes were filled with anger. There is only one way for us to banish gods, and that is to seize their godhead and remove their names from the eastern divine realm. Just like what happened to Ouyang Yen in the past. Even if I send the 2 of you to the shattered cauldron realm, you can only fight a god emperor like Xikong Ming with the identity of a crippled god as long as it doesn't violate the divine pact. Are you confident? Xikong Ming, Qing Ping puffed out her full chest and said with a smile, "If I remove my godhead, I only have less than 40% chance of winning against Xikong Ming. After all, without the divine power of the godhead, my strength will be greatly weakened. But if I violate the divine pact and order you to descend to the Shattered Cauldron realm, Xiao will lose her cultivation." The 7 luminaries demon emperor gritted his teeth and said, "She has just stepped into the 99th level of paradise not long ago. I can't let all of her efforts go to waste. Then what should we do now? We can't just watch as the gods of the Western Divine Realm descend from the sky and kill everyone in the Shattered Cauldron realm. The Shattered Cauldron realm is the territory of the Eastern Heaven. Moreover, you and Qin Yin are also there, Qin Yin." The fierce eyes of the 7 luminaries demon emperor flashed with a hint of gentleness. He said, "I don't know when you's little girlfriend will awaken from the heavenly law reincarnation. Only when she awakens can she truly help you. Otherwise, she will still be Xin, still a person of the Western Divine Realm. Sun Feng, check for me. Approximately how long will it take for the banished land to travel to the Shattered Cauldron realm?" 1 day later. Sun Feng said without hesitation, "This subordinate has already checked. It happens to be 1 day later at this time. There's no other way. We can only ask for Xiao's help." Mn, the 7 luminaries demon emperor closed his eyes, and golden light instantly shone around him. Spiritual energy spread out, and he silently said in his heart, "Xiao, Xiao, are you there?" At this time, in the ancient desolate realm of gods, Xiao was flying through the air in a white robe. On the ground, divine bulls were galloping, and white dragons were soaring. The ancient desolate realm of gods was a godly realm that had yet to fully develop. It was filled with danger and mysteries. Suddenly, Xiao stopped. She heard the call of the 7 luminaries demon emperor. "I'm here. What's wrong?" She slowly closed her eyes. The Western Divine Realm has exiled another 300 or so dimensional gods. They want to completely eradicate the Shattered Cauldron realm. I have to help you. Moreover, there's only 1 day left. Have you found the other divine weapons? I've found one. Xiao looked at the long sword in her hand. The blade of this sword was clear and bright, and the body of the sword was engraved with ancient patterns, mountains, rivers, humans, animals, and so on. A faint aura of righteousness flowed from the sword into her arm, making people feel a sense of justice. The corners of Xiao's mouth raised slightly, and she said, "I found the Xianyuan sword." "That's great." The 7 luminaries demon emperor was overjoyed. "Think of a way to return the Xianyuan sword to me. If I can gather the god power of the Xianyuan sword and Panga's axe, maybe I can condense a flame knot for the Shattered Cauldron realm and make Claude suffer the consequences of his own actions." "Flame knot?" Xiao bit her red lips. "If you really do that, it'll consume at least 10% of your cultivation. Cultivation cultivates the state of mind. It only consumes God power. Don't worry about me. Quickly think of a way to return the Xianyuan sword." I will. You have to be careful too. Don't worry." Xiao stood in an ancient fertile field. The Xianyuan sword in her hand trembled slightly. It was difficult for her to make this decision. In order to help the Shattered Cauldron realm, there seemed to be nothing the 7 luminaries demon emperor wouldn't do. But in the end, she still had to help him. Chapter 889. In the vast heavens, countless stars twinkled in the night sky. Every star corresponded to a spiritual mountain in the divine realm. In the sky, a crescent moon shone on the blood clouds formed by the 9 heavens' divine lightning. Buzz! Suddenly, an azure blue light flickered in the sky. Immediately after, a spiraling energy pierced out from the alternate space. "It's here. It's a message from Lord Xiao. I'll go get it." Sun Feng leaped over, his body turning into a spiritual brilliance that lingered around the spiraling energy. Suddenly, rumbling flames exploded behind him, extending for dozens of miles. Finally, the flames were abruptly extinguished. After the light dissipated, Sun Feng was holding a resplendent longsword with both hands. With a face full of joy, he said, "Is this the legendary Xianyuan sword?" He respectfully held the longsword and flew into the array net of the 9 heavens' divine lightning. He said, "Demon Emperor, the item is here." The 7 luminaries' Demon Emperor nodded. He held the Pangu axe in his left hand and the Xianyuan sword in his right hand. Suddenly, a vast power surged into his body, neutralizing the violent feeling brought by the Pangu axe. The Xianyuan sword was a sword of the divine path. It contained a vast righteousness and was the symbol of the ancient civilization and the divine path. Naturally, it was very different. "It's done," the 7 luminaries' Demon Emperor's voice became a little excited. He said, "Qing Ping, help me lock onto the Shattered Cauldron Realm and the Celestial Pole Continent. I want the Western Divine Realm to suffer for what they've sown." "Yes, Demon Emperor." Qing Ping shouted and parted the clouds in front of her. Suddenly, an azure blue planet appeared in front of her. However, one could see with the naked eye that the planet was actually divided into 2 halves. There was a very obvious gap, just like an apple being cut in half. Air currents floated on the surface of the planet, protecting all the living things on the continent. What a beautiful Shattered Cauldron Realm. Qing Ping couldn't help but feel a little dazed. "How much longer until the Wheel of Time calibrates the Shattered Cauldron Realm?" asked the Demon Emperor. "In the time it takes for a joss stick to burn, Demon Emperor, you can already circulate your powers." "All right." The 7 luminaries' Demon Emperor stepped on the 9 heavens' divine thunder barrier. With the Pangu axe in his left hand and the Xianyuan sword in his right, he suddenly shouted and gathered all of his power. Immediately, the 2 divine weapons were controlled by him, causing electric currents to crackle. The Demon Emperor looked at the Shattered Cauldron World's planar star with his torch-like eyes and shouted, "All the flames of heaven and earth, heed my command." Buzz buzz buzz, in the faraway illusion, the surface of the Shattered Cauldron Realm star slowly condensed into wisps of invisible flames. These flames gathered together as if they had a mind of their own, forming a fiery barrier. This was the flame barrier that the 7 luminaries' Demon Emperor and Xiao had mentioned. This was an armor of flames that covered the entire plane. The color of the flame barrier became more intense, and its power became more and more vigorous. The 2 divine weapons in the hands of the 7 luminaries' Demon Emperor trembled violently. Their power was being rapidly evaporated and absorbed. The flame barrier formed by the power of the 2 divine weapons and the 7 luminaries' Demon Emperor, one could imagine how powerful its defense was. The time it took for a joss stick to burn passed very quickly. "It's here!" Sun Feng suddenly shouted. As the God Emperor of the 98 heavens, he actually couldn't remain calm. His emotions were fluctuating. Such a scene was probably something that many gods would never see in their lifetime. In the entire world, perhaps only the 7 luminaries' Demon Emperor had the cultivation to control 2 divine weapons at the same time and set up such an unprecedented ambush. Swish swish swish, outside the Shattered Cauldron Realm star, streams of light rapidly appeared and rushed over. Each stream of light represented an angel from the Western Heaven Realm. They flew towards the Shattered Cauldron Realm in a dense mass. Once they entered the atmosphere, they would become the death gods of the entire Shattered Cauldron Realm. But this time, they couldn't reach the Shattered Cauldron Realm. Pang! The first stream of light collided with the flame barrier. Instantly, a monstrous flame surged out, and the stream of light turned into dust in the universe. Following that, the second, third, fourth, and more came. The sounds of explosions rang out incessantly. This scene was like moths flying into a flame. They were unable to change their trajectory as they were shuttling through space. One by one, they collided with the flame barrier like moths flying into a flame and turned into dust in the universe. The entire flame barrier was trembling violently. Waves of flame rippled non-stop. While killing these gods, it would also cause a huge impact on the flame barrier. After all, divine power was also conserved. Oh my god, Qing Ping was dumbfounded as she watched. Sun Feng, on the other hand, clenched his fists tightly. He was counting. At least 200 angels had been turned into ashes by the flame barrier, and more were coming. The 7 luminaries' demon emperor's body was faintly glowing with golden light. He was still holding on with the Pangu axe and Xianyuan sword in his hands. He gritted his teeth and held on bitterly. He couldn't let any of the angels descend into the shattered cauldron realm. Otherwise, it would be big trouble for Lin Muyu and Qin Yin. However, the flame barrier's power was still weakening. Finally, a dozen or so angels crashed through the flame barrier and fell into the shattered cauldron realm's atmosphere. Hua, the flame barrier finally shattered. Ah! The 7 Brilliance demon monarch took a few steps backward in the air. His face was covered in sweat. He could not help but drop to his knees on the 9 heavens' thunderous barrier while panting heavily. What he had done had greatly exceeded his capabilities. As a matter of fact, he was probably the only person who could kill so many angels from such a great distance. What's the result? He raised his head and asked. Sun Feng was overjoyed. Only a dozen or so angels escaped. Don't worry, Demon Emperor. With Yu's ability, he definitely won't be stumped by a dozen or so angels. You've already helped you a lot this time. That's good. Demon Emperor. Qing Ping looked at the 7 luminaries' demon emperor and suddenly froze. Tears welled up in her eyes. What's wrong, Qing Ping? The 7 luminaries' demon emperor was a little surprised. You. Look at yourself, ah. The 7 luminaries' demon emperor quickly transformed into a mirror image. He couldn't help but be stunned when he saw himself in the mirror. After using the 2 divine weapons to activate the flame barrier, a strand of white hair had appeared on his temples. Am I aging? I'm fine. He said softly. Qing Ping was scared to tears. How can a god emperor age? How can a god emperor age? Demon Emperor, don't ever use the flame barrier again. Got it. You're really troublesome. The 7 luminaries' demon emperor smiled faintly and said, Sun Feng, go and gather our celestial race army. What is Demon Emperor going to do? Do what? The 7 luminaries' demon emperor sneered. Since Claude likes to stir up trouble so much, let him have a taste of his own medicine. The Western Divine Realm has lost so many god emperors, god kings, and godly venerables in an instant. Their strength is lacking. If not now, then when? Pass down my orders. Gather 50,000 gods of East Heaven and set off in 2 hours to attack the eastern border of the Western Divine Realm. Attack as far as you can. If possible, it's best to attack the root of the problem. Get rid of that idiot Claude and replace him. Yes. The 7 luminaries' demon emperor panted heavily. He looked down at the Xianyuan sword in his hand and said to himself, your aura is very similar to Yu's. Forget it. After I use you to attack the Western Divine Realm, I'll send you to Yu by express delivery. Bastard. Bastard. In the Western Divine Realm, rays of light god power hit the stone pillars. In the blink of an eye, a side hall was turned into dust. Claude was shrouded in a light curtain. His face was full of anger. Why? Why is the 7 luminaries' demon emperor able to see through the people of the Western Divine Realm? What is that barrier he opened? The entire Western Divine Realm was shocked by the loss of more than 300 angels in an instant. As the ruler, Claude had an unshirkable responsibility for this matter. Once the major family started to blame him, his days would probably be very difficult. Xian and Eva followed behind him. They had never seen Claude break down like this. It seemed that this blow was too big for Claude. "Ruler!" Xian called out softly. "What?" Claude turned back to look at her. "I'm afraid that the army of the Eastern Divine Realm will arrive soon." Xian said, "The 7 Luminaries' Demon Emperor has never been one to suffer losses. This time, after seeing through our intentions, he will definitely launch an invasion. The War of the Gods will once again descend upon the Western Divine Realm. I know, this is only a matter of time." Claude's voice was very cold. "Xian, Eva, send my divine edict to the major families of the Western Divine Realm, ordering them to do their best to defend the eastern border. This War of the Gods will be commanded by the 2 of you. It must be a head-on attack, and all the armies of the Eastern Heaven must be beaten back. But Ruler, Terralyn, Lake, and the other battle angels haven't returned yet. This subordinate is worried that the Light Clan and the other families won't fully help the temple. If they refuse to send troops, what should we do?" Claude took a deep breath and said, "Tell them that Terralyn, Lake, and Zhou Shimin will soon return from their training. Tell them not to worry and go do it. If they don't send troops, I will punish them." "Yes." Shattered Cauldron Realm, the eastern capital, Winter Frost City. There was a faint fiery red color in the sky. Ripples of fire spread out continuously, as though meteorites were smashing into Tian Chen's enchantment. At the same time, every ripple of fire signified the disappearance of a strand of divine power. Outside the hall, Lin Muyu, Scholar Ling, Chu Yao, and the others looked up at the stars, their faces full of horror. "What is that?" Chu Yao asked softly. She was even a little afraid. After all, she hadn't stepped into the divine realm, and she couldn't even see through divine power. How could she not be afraid when she saw this kind of heavenly power? "It's okay." Lin Muyu held her hand and said, "It seems, the Demon Emperor is helping us again. Besides him, no one else has such great magical power." "Yes," Scholar Ling nodded and said, "After His Majesty the Celestial Emperor ascended to the heavens beyond heaven, this new master of the Eastern Heaven is not simple." You're tuning in to the Unparalleled SwordWill YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.